Welcome in everybody to today's live stream. Today it is the 1st of March 2026. It's Sunday and my name is CareyHolzman. Today we're going to continue where we left off with reviewing the Kamrui, the newest version of the E3B, which they still call the E3B, and have about 4 different versions of it. This is the latest version, and we have a link to part 1 if you've missed it down in the video description below. One of the biggest frustrations that I have as a content creator is most viewers don't pay attention to the video description. They don't know what a video description is. They don't even have a concept in their head. And so often what they do is they will ask for links or ask for information that we've detailed in the video description. And it's a bizarre phenomenon culturally worldwide that the vast majority of questions we get in the comments underneath the videos are answered within the video notes of the video they watched. Or sometimes they're watching a video and they don't realize they're watching a video from 4 years ago. So our goal is to help not only educate our viewers with regards to computers and technology, but even how to use YouTube. Because for as basic as that seems to those of us familiar with it, others, it's a foreign concept and they don't think to even look for things like video notes. It never even occurs to them. So YouTube has a long way to go to help make this process a lot more seamless and make the users aware intuitively that there's more information under the video. But until they do that, I'm just going to mention it in the hopes that the people who need to hear it will hear it. And those of you who know, obviously, just bear with us as we try and get the public educated so that they can, they don't have to, basically we have a buffet, right? And they think they need to have somebody serve them. And it's like, hey, the buffet's there, serve yourself, it's all right there. And they're saying, oh, I didn't know that there was a buffet over there. I thought I was gonna be served. So that would tell me the restaurant's doing a very bad job of promoting what they're doing. And in this case, that restaurant is YouTube. And every week there's probably I don't know, if it's not a dozen, it's close to a dozen comments left under videos, and remember, a video library goes back quite a ways, where they don't realize they're watching old content. Somebody wants to know, why don't you mention a price? And it's like, well, we do mention prices vaguely, but because the video will be up for years and years, the prices change. The product may not be made anymore. You might be watching this video in 2032, and this is an obsolete product by then that hasn't been made for years. And if the viewer doesn't understand they're watching a 6-year-old video, it's frustrating. I don't know what else to do. Maybe between now and then, YouTube will change the process a little bit, and for now, it's just part of the struggle that comes along with doing this. So I do try to put as much information in the video as possible, and then any additional information that's impractical or forgotten or omitted or is changed, we're not going to remake the whole video again, but we can easily edit the video notes. So if you're not checking video notes out on every single video on this platform, on the entire YouTube platform, you might be missing upwards of 50% of the actual content. So just so you know, I want to give a shout out and a reminder, a shout out to our friends at VIP-URCDKEys, and a reminder to all of you that if you're looking for legal licensed Windows or Microsoft Office keys, where I go to use them on my business is at VIP-URCDKEys. So we gave that a little bit of a break because, quite frankly, I don't want to have the same repetitive information for too long, but at the same time, I don't want to leave it out for too long and then people don't know. So I made a short little video last night, but I need to refine it a little bit. But basically, if you look at our video notes, like there's today's video, right? And if I scroll down, and by the way, since I filmed this video last night, the video notes have changed a bit. So what I'm about to show you is slightly different. And as you scroll down, you're going to see that there's information for how to purchase these license keys is all right here. It's very clearly spelled out with direct links. So you just need to click on the one you want. The prices there have been updated, and because of the foreign exchange, we don't know. Prices fluctuate whenever they fluctuate. But in this example, I would click buy now, and then you have to put in your name and email address or set up a free account. You have to do this. It is in your own best interest, and there's no other way you can make the purchase. Then When it's added to your cart after you've signed in, you'll go to enter my coupon code. That'll give you that additional 25% off. And then you're going to go ahead and hit the submit order button. When you submit that order, the next page that's going to come up is going to ask you for how you want to pay. So when I click on to submit the order, then it says, great, we're ready to check out. So you want to pay with credit cards, PayPal, Google Pay. So for me, I always use PayPal. It's just easier, especially with international transactions. Sometimes credit card companies, they see a transaction in another country, and if you're not normally buying in other countries, it's suspicious. But there's nothing illicit about this whole process. It's just the credit card company says, it's really weird you're making a purchase out of Hong Kong when you don't normally do that. PayPal, on the other hand, they're accustomed to worldwide financial transactions on a regular basis by the millions. So it's just so much easier for me to use PayPal. But you have other options as well. Essentially, the reason it's so important for you to create your account is so that you have a record of the receipt. So if you were making anonymous purchases from Amazon, good luck returning or doing anything with warranty. You really want to be able to log into your account history and verify all your past purchases for any reason. You never know what you might need it for. It could be the end of the year, tax season. It could be a warranty issue. Something's got a lifetime warranty, and now, you know, it's been several years since you purchased it. You got to go back and find that receipt. So in the case of Amazon, will just log in, look at my account history, and go all the way back to 1997 when I first made my very first purchase on Amazon. This works similarly when you purchase from VIP-URCDKEYs. It's going to keep a purchase history, a receipt history, indefinitely for you. That also includes your product keys that you purchase, so you don't have to worry about losing them or contacting customer support. You just go help yourself. But if you screw yourself by putting in fake emails and such because you think you're getting away with something, I'm telling you what, you just set yourself up for a future disappointment that you voluntarily did to yourself. It is in your best interest to use a real legit email and password, because here's the way it's going to work. If you were to set up, for example, temporary, what are these security emails where you just get the email for a couple days, you might think you're outsmarting the system, but you're really just screwing yourself. And so if I were to make a purchase, which I do frequently at VIP-URCDKEYs, I'm expecting an email with my receipt and my instructions on how I get the software from Microsoft legit, and then I need the product code. That's all got to be private. They're not just going to broadcast that publicly for anybody to see. So if I'm using a temporary email because I'm schizophrenic or paranoid, what happens after that is when that email stops working, you go, I got my receipt, right? And I don't need this email address anymore. If you should ever need to go back for any kind of support or any kind of future purchase, and you need to fall back on, you know, which of the purchases was it? Like in my case, I purchased lots of keys. I don't want to have to log into 16 different email accounts, some of which may have just been temporary for security reasons, to try and locate which one was it that I used on this purchase. Everything goes under one account, and your entire history is right there for you to access forever into the future. So it's a good insurance for yourself, and it's just an easier way to just make life easier, make life more simple, because you don't know what reasons you're going to need potentially in the future for that information, and you don't know if that'll be a week or 6 months or 2 years down the road. But if you do that to yourself, you'll only have yourself to blame if you decide to use a temporary email. Yeah. And Mara says we've got email. All right. Well, anyway, if you guys have any questions or problems, just reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you. But I will say they've got excellent support over at VIP-URCDKEYs. So should you have any issues, just reach out to their support. And if support needs to know information off the receipt and you don't have it and you don't have the ability to log into it anymore, it seems like you're a scammer from their side of things. So these days, it's not just buyers protecting themselves from sellers. The sellers have to now protect themselves from the buyers. So if you're acting in a suspicious manner that looks like scammer or spammer activity, expect to be treated as such, as you would to them if they did so to you, right? So with that, thank you to Mark Gaines, who sends us an Amazon gift card in lieu of a super chat. Thank you, Mark, joining us from Northern Ireland, and at a generous gift card at that. We also had a very nice gift card from our friend William Denton. William was trying to get a brand new AMD motherboard and a 9700X Ryzen processor on a new build working, and it wouldn't even post. And no matter what he tried, the BIOS flashback wouldn't work. And I suggested he take the CPU and the RAM out of the board, because you don't need a CPU or RAM to do a BIOS flashback. He said at that point that was the secret. BIOS flashback worked, and he's able to get his system up and running and Windows installed, and he sent us a very, very generous Amazon gift card as his, for his showing his appreciation, which unexpected and deeply appreciated. So William Denton, thank you so much for that. Also, Frankie B gave us a very generous Amazon gift card yesterday as well. And our good friend Buster, who missed the show yesterday. It was a last-minute show, and it's a lot later out there in Scotland where he lives. Sent us an Amazon gift card today, and also for yesterday's show. So thank you again for your support, and for all our members in green for supporting us here so that we can continue to be independent away from corporate ownership. So it's because of you that we can continue to do this now, and I can't thank each and every one of you enough for it. Now, if you're new here, we're an interactive channel. This is not a spectator channel. This is not a sales pitch. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Most YouTube videos are commercials. Whether you realize it or not, most of the content is commercials. Somebody has to pay for that content. The advertising doesn't pay for it anymore. If we go back 6 years, we have a different discussion. Today, that is not a sustainable platform unless you make videos that routinely get over 100,000 views time and time and time again. You won't make enough money to so much as pay your electric bill at the end of the month. So that's the economy we're in right now, and it's because of our viewers that we're able to continue. And it's also why it's so important for me to interact with my community and for the community to be a part of these videos. After all, without them, we wouldn't have the videos, and so they should have some say and be able to talk to me while I'm live. And you don't have to be a supporter to do that. Just come on into our chat room and be friendly. And if you can't be friendly, don't come in or we'll kick you out. It's really that easy. We're going to give you back whatever you give. You're going to get what you give. If you give kindness, you'll get kindness. And if you get if you want to be intolerant and just kind of be scrutinize everything to a point of basically implying insult, we don't need that here. You can go find that literally any other YouTube channel. On this one, if you realize the value of the community, you'll want to be a part of it, and we'd love to have you here. So hopefully we'll have some folks interacting with us, saying hello, and joining us during today's live stream. Now, since I did this review Friday, I went ahead and ran Cinebench on it and saved the results, and I ran Crystal Diskmark on it and saved the results. This does have a SATA M.2 drive installed, and it has a second M.2 slot that we know will do SATA or NVMe, or sometimes PCIe. But the slot that they're using for SATA, the other slot, that's got a SATA drive in it. I don't know if that one can also go NVMe. So I've got an NVMe drive here. I also don't know if it's Gen 3 or Gen 4. This is Gen 4. So if we plug it in and Windows sees it, or the system sees it, we know it's NVMe compatible. And if we speed test it and we get speeds over 3,600 megabytes per second, we know it's Gen 4. On the other hand, if the speeds are lower than that, then we know it's only Gen 3. We could always look up specs, but sometimes specs are inaccurate, and I think it's just faster to just plug it in and verify with our own two eyes and our own experience what the real information is versus what we're told. I'm just not that trustworthy when it comes to the internet and when it comes to people. They got to earn that. And so I would rather just see for myself, unless I am familiar with the source of the information. And sometimes the sources make mistakes. So I can avoid all of that nonsense by simply verifying by experience exactly what the state is and sharing that with you, so you have no doubt because we have evidence. That's why I do what I do. I do wish more manufacturers would be clearer when it comes to, and you know this is done on purpose, right? When they say this has a 512 gig SSD, there's a reason why they're saying it's not SATA or NVMe. They just don't mention it. And then when it comes to the slots being Gen 3 or Gen 4, my guess is if it were Gen 4, they'd brag about it, because otherwise they're selling this short. My assumption is there's a reason why they're leaving that information out. Or if the information's there, I'm not seeing it, which means it's not bold and like in your face like you would brag about it. I expect this to be Gen 3. But because I'm guessing, the only way I can tell you with confidence exactly what it is with no way to argue with me is to prove it to you right now live on camera, and to prove it to myself too, by the way. So I know you cannot question. If I fall down and hurt myself, you can't tell me you didn't fall down and hurt yourself. Yes, I did. I've got the bruises to prove it. Plus, it's all on camera. And this stops a lot of the internet trolling dead, because now they've got no imagination to go off when there's evidence. So that's why I do it this way. And a lot of other YouTube channels who, you know, look, as content creators, we can misspeak or make mistakes. We get confused. To have the audience be able to immediately correct me or offer that assistance is really beneficial to the entire community, and especially me. Sometimes I say something where I meant to say something else and I didn't hear it. You know, if I refer to this by a different manufacturer name when I didn't mean to, and someone says, you just called that Ace Magic and it's really Kamrui. It's a minor little thing, but I want to make sure the information I give is accurate. And so when you pre-record videos and edit them and upload them, there's really no changing them at that point. Content creators are discouraged from deleting content because they'll lose all the views, and then their search results will drop. So oftentimes, information that goes out wrong will just stay up wrong. That's why it's so important for me to prove as much of this to you as possible, and to enable you to speak to me or ask questions that perhaps I didn't think about answering, such as, who makes the network interface card? We know the Wi-Fi card's MediaTek because we saw it, but I never did check who makes the wired LAN connection back here. So these kind of mistakes or omissions, I didn't do it on purpose. I just realized I didn't cover that. And so that's why we do this part 2. And if I find out I left information out of part 2, then we'll do a part 3, and I'll do it as many times as I have to make sure that everybody's questions are satisfied. If it's something I can do, I absolutely will. And sometimes so many questions that I never think of are common, like who makes the network interface card? Because I work in Windows. What do I care if it's Realtek or if it's who cares? Well, if you use Linux, you might care because there may not be drivers compatible with a killer NIC versus, let's say, a Realtek NIC. As a result, that matters a lot to the Linux users, but this is not a Linux channel. However, it's not a big deal for me to answer that question, but because I don't work in Linux, I never have that problem, and it's nothing I never have to worry about a driver issue not being available in Windows. If it were Mac or Linux or something else, those are problems for them. So we don't do that here. But at the same time, it's a very simple question. It's easy to answer. I'm more than happy to provide it. Also, what does matter to me is the speed of the network card. Is it 1 gig? Is it 2.5? What is it? And that's important to me. So usually I check both of those things, because when I look in the device manager to see who makes the network adapter, it'll tell me the speed of the adapter too, based on the model number. So these are ways that I have adapted my reviews to accommodate information from the viewers, because it's more than one viewer that's asked these questions, and as that continues to evolve, we'll continue to adapt. That's where the community plays such an important role on this. Otherwise, I wouldn't know any better, right? You'll just assume you're watching a Windows channel because you have Windows, and if you had Linux, you'd be watching a Linux channel, and you'd be asking the Linux people your Linux questions. Look how wrong I'd be. Okay. But everybody that's friendly is welcome here regardless. I just don't know anything about, we talk about Linux or Mac, that's not my wheelhouse. It's not what I do for a living. I have nothing against it. I just not my thing, right? So there we go. And of course, our community answers a lot of questions for other people in the community as well. Frank Jimmy was helping out a lot yesterday with William Denton, trying to get his BIOS updated. And this is a very common thing where users help users. Our community helps other community. And don't dismiss answers you might get from our community, because they might respond to you faster and more accurately than me. In fact, what they're telling you, I might have learned from them. So just bear that in mind. If you do have any questions, watch the community for answers besides myself. All right, with that, let me say hello to everybody who's joining us today. Isaiah says hello. Jonathan Fells says hello. Tina McLaughlin saying hello. Scott Messerschmidt. Peter Laycock out there in Scotland. Our friend Buster joins us from Edinburgh, where he says it's 52 degrees Fahrenheit right now. That's 11.1 degrees Celsius there in Scotland. Bonnie, Scotland. Eddie Casanova, Michael Lavelle, and David Graham join us. And welcome in everybody. Mara, our channel administrator, hanging out with us there. I also see Sean Skinner, 3D Everything, Ben Laird, John Lewis, scrolling. There's Luke Greenia, Andy W6AD, John Paul Bacon. There's Mark Gaines and Frank Jimmy, speak of the devil. Richard DeFries. David Herzog says hello. Mark Baggett. Carol Cochran. Neil Garrett saying hello. Jim Kenny says hello. There's Tapper9876 joining us. Dennis K saying hello from Quad Cities, Iowa. Ladies Man said, Carey, you're the reason I started building computers. Thank you so much. Hey, that's awesome. Hearing people tell me that will never get old. Thank you for letting me know. Paul Connolly says hello from Australia. Nicholas Barlow saying hello. Let's see, who else do we have in here? I see Hobbsville Guy saying hello from the Tar Heel State. LRCX joining us there from Northern California says another month supporting a great channel. Well, thank you for that. That's Larry. Thank you, Larry. And Bikeman says, I am watching you on a desktop PC. I swap systems just to see this screen on a bigger screen than what his newer gaming laptop has. Xander Vanderhoven says hello from the Netherlands. Welcome in, everybody. I think, oh, hold on, a couple more. Ghost Reaper and Hallie's Hit saying hello. And Chef says hello. And Brian Weber saying hello. There, I think I got everyone. Alex Kaufman saying hello from Iowa. Got a few viewers in Iowa today. Are we having upload problems? Are we having audio problems? Not on my side. We have a perfect connection to YouTube's ingest servers, and everything looks perfect on our side. If you, just confirm with the chat room and see if it's something on your side. From my side, all the technical data that I see, the data analytics are perfect, and they haven't been anything but perfect since we started. Manuel joins us and contributes €2 in Super Chat. Thank you, Manuel. All right, so I guess we're going to get this hooked up here. I've left the screws and rubber feet off of it because I knew we were going to get back in it. And I guess the first thing I want to do is just simply add the NVMe drive back in here. Or not put it back in here, but use the second NVMe slot. And the reason I want to do that, one, I don't want to have to reinstall Windows all over again, and I don't want to have to clone it. I'm trying to do this quickly. So what I thought I would do is we'll pop the back off of here, and we'll put this into the spare slot, which we already know is NVMe, but we can at least then determine if it's generation 3 or generation 4. Now, I don't have any problems with this computer. I know Andy has mentioned he thought this computer had problems. There's no problem. I've not had any crashes or any noise coming out of it. When we're looking at these budget machines, which, you know, the prices have gone up on budget machines because of the shortages of RAM and SSDs, you could certainly buy something more powerful for more money. So if you understand that I'm selling you a $5 steak, I would think you would adjust your expectations than if I'm selling you a $100 steak. So if you go to McDonald's and order a burger, or you go to a steakhouse and order a burger, I would expect that you should expect there's going to be a price and quality difference directly in line with price. Now, how this compares with other models at this price depends on your particular values. Kamrui is known for using these SATA SSDs. Honestly, I think a lot of people are caught up in numbers, because whether this is NVMe or SATA probably won't make much difference, because we're already at such a low end on the processor, where it's a very modest processor. And so to take something that's modest like that and put on anything extreme like DDR5, you're just wasting money. Putting on a Gen 4 NVMe on this is really, for most people, a complete waste of money. People getting caught up in marketing. Marketing wants you to think exactly that. They want you to think that anything less than the best is you getting ripped off, or you're not getting your money's worth. But we have to talk about the money, right? So what is the money? Are we spending $300 or are we spending $600? And based on that, I would adjust my expectations. Anything that would be better suited for the CPU or the storage or the RAM or the noise or the upgradability, the ease of opening it, that would sell for this much or less, it's got to be a difference about like that. It's not like they're selling you a $300 computer and someone else is selling the exact same thing for $75. In that case, I'd be right behind you. I'd say, yeah, I get what you're saying. But if there's anything cheaper that matches or exceeds this, it won't be by much. But you know, that's for each of you to decide. It also doesn't matter if you can't get your hands on it. Right? They could say they're going to sell it for $1, but if they're sold out, I guess they could say it's any price they want, because you ain't getting it. All right, let me just take the back off of this one more time. I put this back on because it's a heat sink for the RAM and the storage, and it's just a giant metal plate. And you know, that's a nice thing. A lot of other cheaper mini PCs won't have that, so you may not have the level of operational temperature that this maintains. It's a lot lower than what would be expected. And someone might say, well, that's because it's slower. Not necessarily. There are machines as fast as this that run much hotter than this does. And whether that's because of the processor and the amount of power it consumes, or it's because of the lack thereof of a heatsink, there's a lot of different reasons that a lot of people just don't think about, because most content creators don't talk about this stuff. And so, you know, it's great when, you know, people make videos and they share information, but it's a mistake to think you got all the information. Even I can't cover everything, but I will try to point out things that most content creators leave out, like how important that is and what a big difference it makes, and how hot this gets when we run it under Cinebench under extreme conditions. I don't really care so much about the score. I just want to make sure it's not crashing and it's not getting really loud. So I'll show you those results here in a minute. But what I want to do first is right in here, let's see if we go to camera 2. We've got our NVMe drive there, and that's a SATA drive. This port over here will take SATA or NVMe. So by plugging this in here, oh, I better take this screw out. That screwdriver is too big. Let me see. about this guy? Will this work? Boy, it's just spinning. That screw they're using is a very, very shallow and small, like precision driver for like a Phillips #1. So for that, I'll get out my Natch toolkit. Most people will just show you the iFixit toolkit, right? Which is fine if you've got that kind of money. But if you want a toolkit that is similar, if not better, at about half the price, you got to go with the company no one's ever heard of, or fewer people talk about in this industry. And that's what I'm here to do for you, because I run a business. I'm in this industry, and I want to make sure that I have the right tools for me to do my job. That does, because they're expensive tools doesn't mean they're the right tools. And these are a great variety, good quality, and a very aggressive price point. Oh, I want to leave that drive in. I want to go to this drive, this screw right here. There we go, that's biting. And then we'll go ahead and just pop this bad boy in there. Just like that. And then we'll go ahead and secure that back down. Now this drive should be completely erased as though it were brand new out of the box, and it will require a partition and format for us to be able to speed test it. I don't really know that I need the heatsink on there for this. I think I'll leave it open, and if it's going to have any heat related problems, we'll know. It'll be really obvious, because after a few seconds of high speed testing, the speed will drop. It'll plummet to 90% slower. That's a clear heat issue if you witness that. But I think we'll be okay, because this is like a graphene heatsink on top. Hopefully that's enough. So let's go ahead and plug this in, and we're going to plug it into the streamer over here. So right there is our HDMI cable. And then I'll also plug in our Ethernet cable. So we have internet access right here. And then we need a keyboard and a mouse, which we'll grab here. And the dongle for this is right under here. It's magnetically attached so we don't lose it. We'll plug that into any USB port in the bag, just like this. I'm already running out of room here. Clear some space. Make sure this is all turned on. And then I need to give this power. So let me grab a power cable. And we'll plug that bad boy in right there. And we'll go ahead and turn this on like so. There we go. And then I'm going to switch over to the streaming computer here, which is to go to input number 3 on my side. There we go. And we can see it's booting up. Okay, let's take a look. If I go to disk management, right click on the start button, and you should see disk management. It should auto detect a brand new drive has been installed and prompt us to partition it. Yep, to initialize it. So I'm just going to click OK. And that's this 1 terabyte drive down here, and we'll just go ahead and format it. Very easy, just click next and OK all the way through. In just a minute here, it'll be done, and it's ready to be used now. If I go to this PC, you should see a D drive now. Yeah, there it is. Now, if we look at the results of Crystal Diskmark on the C drive, that's a SATA 512 gig. You see we're hitting about 550. That's about the maximum you're going to see out of SATA 3, which is 600 megabits per second or 600 megabytes per second. And if you say, well, if the max is 600, why did you say the max is 550? There are communication protocols to ensure the integrity of the data for error correction and controls. And they're going to eat up some of that bandwidth to communicate the data accurately. And so you lose a little bit of overhead for the data transmission protocols. So with that, 550 is about the max, you know, give or take. And then on the write speed, 495, writes are normally a little bit slower. And I'm usually just focused on these two main numbers, right? This is a best case scenario. This is saying under the best of circumstances, that's the fastest this drive can go. Now, how it works in real life depends on how you use it. It won't be the same for everybody. The crystal disk info on that drive, that SATA drive, is kind of generic. And it does say it's serial ATA, it's SATA 600. That's the 600 megabits per second, or I'm sorry, 600 megabytes per second here. It's drive C. All right, you see it's brand new. It's been powered on 15 times for 7 hours of runtime. And then if we go to if we go to Cinebench, we can see our results here. Again, we're not going to reach any staggering points of score unless you're comparing score to price. And then, of course, over the core temperatures, the hottest we ever saw for both the multi-core and the single core looks like it's 80.6, so a very far cry from thermal throttling. As a result, the fans were very quiet, the system never overheated, the program never crashed. It took that work, the 20-minute extreme workload, which is very unrealistic of normal users, and it sailed through it like it was no big deal. Didn't break a sweat. So all of that looks really, really good while remaining quiet, especially at this price point where this price point isn't designed to run Cinebench, okay? It's like you want to do a quarter-mile drag strip run in a Chevy Spark. You can do it, but that's not what the car was built for, and don't expect to set any records unless you want to compare what you paid for that car to what somebody else paid for their car to get it to run similar speeds. Then you'll realize what a value you have, or not. All right, so with that being done, if I come over here to Crystal Disk Mark and just simply run the same speed test on our newly formatted D drive in that secondary slot, if we see a number over 3600 here, then we know that's Gen 4 because our drive is Gen 4. In fact, I want to do all the tests. Let's go ahead and run all the tests right now. And this is one of several ways that you can tell. Okay, whatever you want to do. There's more than one way to do this. The fact that we're at 3725 indicates to me this is Gen 3. Remember, Gen 3, in theory, I think it could hit 4,000 megabytes per second. But again, you have overhead. And so for us to see much more than that is likely because this is a Gen 4 drive. Now, while that's running, I'm going to go ahead and do the Crystal Disk info because I'm being impatient, but it's not going to make our test scores that accurate because we're using the drive for two things instead of one. But here it tells us for drive D up here, it says the drive is in by 4. The current mode is supporting is Gen 3 by 4, but the drive is capable of Gen 4 by 4. Okay, so that's how I know. I know what the drive is capable of by the number on the right, and I know what the drive is communicating at with the motherboard with this number on the left. So it is Gen 3. So then the only question that remains for me is, what about the other slot? Are they both the same, or is that other slot where the C drive is installed SATA only? Now, I'm going to guess and say they're probably both the same, but I don't like guessing. I mean, guessing's fun if there's nothing on the line and you don't mind embarrassing yourself. I'd rather be more non-committal and be honest and say I don't know than to put up an assumption and then turn around and be wrong, right? Much safer to say nothing. Just say, let's just wait for the results. But there's nothing in it for me to gain by being right. So I'm going to do it anyway and say I'm going to assume they're probably most likely the same, but we're going to find out here in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and stop the test because I don't need to save these numbers. We know that's Gen 3. We verified it. Let's go ahead and shut everything down. And then what I need to do is reverse the drives. That way I don't have to reinstall the operating system. The system will automatically boot to whichever slot has the bootable disk. So if this slot that we're using now is bootable and we move it to the other slot and change positions, then the system will automatically adjust and boot from the other slot instead. We know the other slot is SATA compatible because it says it right on the... I don't know why the other slot isn't labeled. It's very strange. Perhaps an oversight on their part, I don't know. Normally when you work on these, you're going to want to disconnect the power. You don't want to have power running through here because even when it's off, there's still power going through, and if you should accidentally make a short circuit by touching the screwdriver against the board, you could damage it, or it might just turn on and surprise you, and then you might be worried if you just corrupted your drive. So it's very simple to just play it safe, and you remove that possibility. If you're a gambler and you're like, it'll be fine, I mean, go ahead. If you can't be bothered to spend 20 seconds to protect yourself, I did my part. I wouldn't do that to a customer's system. It would be very disrespectful, but you can disrespect yourself. I don't mind. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to trade places with these drives, and the system will automatically boot to wherever the operating system is. Now, if we had two different operating systems, that'd be a different story. But since the new drive we just installed is only formatted, it's basically an empty drive. When the BIOS fires up, it'll check to see which one's bootable. And if only one of them is bootable, it's pretty obvious. It doesn't have a choice, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist or somebody to go into the BIOS and manually tell it something obvious. So there's our drive here, which I'm removing, and I'm going to move this drive over here and this one over here. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and secure these down. We'll fire it back up, and we'll see if there's any difference. Like if this drive won't show up, then I'll know that that's a SATA only slot. The fact that that plugged in, usually a SATA only slot will have two keys on it, two plastic, we call them keys, but they're like little plastic indentations that will prevent the drive from plugging in unless it's got the cutout to match the key. So the fact that that plugged in is a good sign that my assumptions are correct, but even then, until we turn it on and test it, we're still assuming. There's some things in life where assumption can be fun, and there's other things in life, like, I don't know, checking to see if somebody's okay. You're worried about somebody, so you just assume they're okay. They may not be. So if you really cared about them, you'd verify. Or I suppose if you were defusing a bomb, you wouldn't want to assume to cut the right wire. I don't know how often that happens to any of us, but if you were doing a root canal as a dentist, you'd want to make sure that it's actually required and you're not just assuming it, that you have evidence to do something that invasive and expensive to a patient. I'm having a little trouble with the magnetic strength on this. So in the Nanch toolkit here, we have a magnetizer and a demagnetizer. I can't remember which is which. So I'll just run this through. Yeah, that solved that problem. Okay, bear with me here for a second. I really should have my other glasses on. This is really tiny detail work that, well, when I was building in 1991, when I was building computers, we didn't use screws this small, and my eyes were a lot better back then. So go figure. The worse my eyes get, the smaller the technology gets. This is a very shallow head on the screw, so it's very difficult for me to get the screwdriver to bite into it, and then I'm trying to hold it steady. And at this point now, my vision isn't helping in that. So let me grab some cheaters. These are a bit more magnified, and they help me with close-up work. And if you watch channels that do modern repairs, a lot of them have electron microscopes where basically the microscope displays on a computer monitor that's attached to it, and then they can see what they need to see. I'm not investing in that. I don't have room or money for it. Somebody once asked me, I hate that I have to wear glasses when I drive. Why can't I just get a prescription windshield? Man, I hope no one else is going to try driving your car. And by the way, the glasses are a lot cheaper. But hey, you know, whatever. All right, so with my glasses on, that went in a lot easier. So we'll go ahead and plug this back in, and we'll turn it back on. So let me grab the power cable here. We'll go back over to camera 1. And turn that back on. Andy says that Gen 4 NVMe drive looks like a Feijing S880. Well spotted, Andy. That's exactly what it is. All right. Oh, let me get back over. I forgot. Let's get back over to this machine here. Okay, just booting up now. See, I didn't have to go in the BIOS or change anything. It automatically found which one was the bootable drive. And we knew that was going to work with SATA because it's labeled. What we don't know is where it was plugged in is not labeled. So let's see if we still even have a D drive, that it sees it, and then we'll also run the benchmark to see if we still get about 3700. That means they're both identical. This kind of information seems to be left out of the product specs page, and we'll let them know. We'll advise them that customers certainly appreciate having this information. And you'll notice the drive is gone. It's not there anymore. So what that tells us is the slot that the SATA drive was plugged into is SATA only. So that's a very easy test. So slot 1 is SATA only, and slot 2 is SATA or NVMe. There you go. It's that easy. And now we don't have to wonder, assume, or trust anything online and Reddit or other, even the manufacturers sometimes get it wrong. We now know this as a fact. Also, if I right-click on the Start button and go to the Device Manager, as I mentioned, I failed to look at the manufacturer of the network interface card and speed. We did look at the Wi-Fi card, which is that MediaTek. But what we have for a network interface card wired is the Realtek 1 gig Ethernet controller. It's very common and very inexpensive. That's how they can help keep the prices down on these units, is by using SATA drives and smaller amounts of memory. Otherwise, you know, if you want to be able to buy computers at last year's prices, you're going to have to go back in time. This is where we're currently at in the market, and companies have a choice to make a change to try and entice you to buy, find ways to save you money. But if you think you're getting the exact same thing for the same amount of money, you're kidding yourself, because that's not how economics work. When the price of gas goes up and you wish you could have bought it for the price it was 2 months ago, you can't. So 2 gallons of gasoline are going to cost a certain amount of money. And they don't do anything to get you cheaper gas. We could water that down for you and sell it to you for half price. But in the PC world, they can choose to use half as much storage, half as much RAM, and go with, like with the network controllers, MediaTek is a less expensive controller, but Realtek is a less expensive. Intel would be more of the name brand, where you have a bit more of a cost. And if they gave you all the name brand stuff and gave you double the RAM and double the storage, you'd be looking at a significantly higher price, which then the customer will say is priced too high. So you can't win with consumers. That's just how they are. So I want you guys in my audience to just be aware that in this industry, you do get what you pay for. And don't set your expectations above the price you're spending unless you're buying something used or on sale. So with that, let me get back over to camera 1. And I'm happy to address any questions if I've left anything out here that you might want to know. Here's Andy Kane joining us, says hello. Welcome in, Andy. Jose Lopez saying hello. Martin says stereo microscopes don't fix shaky hands. That's true. I think my hands are pretty good, but they're probably not going to get better with age or a lot of caffeine or sausage fingers. So let me turn this back off. I'm still waiting to see if you have any questions for me, because the next thing I want to do, put it back the way it was. I'll put the plate back on it. And then what I want to show you how to do is something I've shown dozens of times before. And if I keep showing it and keep showing it and keep showing it, not only do other people get to see it for the first time who aren't looking at the archive, but it'll drill into your head how easy it is to just reinstall Windows, whether or not you have the drivers, how to get the drivers, and what the process will be. Something that just occurred to me is last night when I was prepping this, I realized the AMD Adrenalin software was not installed. I do believe the AMD chipset and all that was installed, but I like, me personally, having the Adrenalin software where it sits in the system tray and lets me know when there are updates. So I don't know what version of driver this had for the chipset or video card, but now with the AMD Adrenalin software installed, I do know. And that was something that I failed to realize on the first part one of this video. So there's another correction there. There's little details. There's so many little details. It's very easy to skip something. I almost need to make myself a checklist or something at this point. But if you're not sure about the AMD Adrenalin, if you've got it or not, just go and download AMD Adrenalin. It'll just overwrite itself if you already have it. There's no downside to it. And then you know. In other words, what I am suggesting to people is stop thinking and start doing. Just actually get the job done. Stop thinking about working and get to work. If you run into any problems, we're here to help. But if your problem is your thinking, well, you need to stop that and actually put it into motion. Make it happen. I can think about building a house, or I can build a house. Which one's going to get the house built first? Obviously, there's got to be some thinking. But when you're overthinking it, at that point, there's no excuse for it anymore. Either do it or don't do it. And if you decide, okay, I'm going to follow your advice, I'm not going to worry about what version I've got, I'll just download the AMD Adrenalin software anyway. If you run into any problems, let us know. We'll be happy to help you. More than likely you won't. More than likely it's just no big deal. And the amount of time you'll spend thinking about it will be 10 times longer than the amount of time it took to do it. But that's just the way I see the world. You do with that information whatever you choose. Let me get back over here and shut this down. And we'll do a complete wipe and reinstall. But I want to remove the other drive and put it back the way it was from the factory, right? Because I was just testing to see what that other slot supported. Now I know for a fact it's SATA only. So once this is off, we can unplug power again. And we'll just change this back how it was. Once again, I need these cheaters here because my eyes ain't getting any younger. Who said that? All right, so that can go back in our stack of parts for future testing or use. That's our Wi-Fi card right underneath there. And our CMOS battery. Pretty typical location. It's a lot easier when you can see, let me tell you. I mean, I'm fairly confident I could do it blindfolded, but I'd rather not. And those don't need to be super tight, just snug them up. And then we'll put this piece back. Remember, if these two slots here go over the two NVMe's for heatsink purposes, with these nubs hanging down. So that's how you know how to align it. I could probably still use the same screwdriver on these too. And this also does not need to be really tight. If you notice when I'm putting the screws in, I go to opposite corners just to make sure I have everything aligned. And I don't want them too tight, so if I do need to move this around a little bit to get the other holes aligned, I don't have to go back and unscrew them, hopefully. But at least that way, when we do our reinstall, we've got some heat dissipation during the heat buildup that will occur during a Windows install. Okay, so with that, I'll just go back and give them one little tiny, like 1/10 of a turn, and we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and leave the bottom off and leave all the feed off of it for right now, because I'm still not sure that we're done. Now, I've got a video that shows you how to make your own Windows 11 installation media, and we just did that recently. So hopefully you've already seen that video, and if not, you can always watch it at your convenience. All you have to do is request it in YouTube search or look at our video library. It'll be right there under our live section. We do this all live because we want to show you in real time how long it takes. It's actually not bad. So let's say, for example, you want to wipe this clean and you're worried about having the drivers. There's a couple things that you can do. In fact, you know what, let's just get it started, and that way I'll talk to you while it's installing. I'm going to find any USB port to plug my Windows 11 installation media that we made legally, sourced directly from Microsoft, and used Rufus to create the media with the image we downloaded from Microsoft, so we can bypass the Microsoft account requirement. Rufus allows you to bypass TPM and other requirements. I think you'd be a fool to do it, but you know what? That's my opinion. Your responsibilities, your consequences. You do whatever you want. So if you want more details on how we set that up, be sure to watch the video. And this is how I do it as a professional. If you're not a professional, I guess there's no reason for you to act like one. Dumbest thing I've ever said. All right, let me give it power. We should always want to act like professionals at all times, unless you're a child. And even then, as a child, I would pretend I was a professional. And I still do today. All right, so let's go ahead and plug that in, and we'll turn this back on. Now, once again, when this is given an option to either boot from the USB or to boot from the internal, it will pick the internal. So we need to override that some way. So that means we can go into the BIOS, we can do a boot override that way. We can, if your Windows is still working, you'd go into Windows and then go to Windows Update, Recovery, and choose Advanced Startup Options, and then say I want to start up to the other drive. So long as it's been plugged in when you started it, it should see it. All right, so let's do that now. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. We're going to go over to HDMI port 3 over here, and I'm going to get ready to hit the delete key on the keyboard at the right time. There we go, and hopefully I'm pressing it at the right time. And let's see if the BIOS comes up. It does. All right, so using the arrow keys, I'm going to go all the way over to boot. Sometimes it's under save and exit. And here it is in save and exit. It says boot override. So I'm just temporarily want to boot off of the SanDisk Extreme USB drive partition 1 and press enter. So only this one time is it going to boot to that USB instead of the internal drive. So I don't have to go back into the BIOS and set it back the way it was. So as it's rebooting right now, it should now start from the USB drive instead of the internal NVMe drive. And then when the setup starts, you know, we go through our standard routine and we'll go ahead and erase everything on that drive. That way we have a nice clean install. After that's done, we can get the drivers. Now, how we get the drivers will determine, well, there's a couple different ways we can do that. So first of all, I'm a little concerned we're not rebooting for some reason. It should be starting up here, and I'm not even getting a post. Some USB drives don't like some motherboards, and that's where I've seen this before. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to assume we're hung up. If you give this enough time, it may be trying to do something, and if you were more patient than I am, if you weren't making a live video for the world to watch, you might just walk away from it for a few minutes and see if it just eventually moves forward. But if I want to force my hand on it, I want to choose a different USB port. So I'm going to go ahead and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shut the unit back off by holding the power button in. And eventually I should see that light go out underneath my finger, and it did. I'm going to just take this USB installation media and I'm going to move it up to the front just to see if that's the problem. Then I'm going to turn it back on again, and as it boots, we're going to repeat the exact same thing. So getting back over to our capture card, I've got my keyboard. As soon as I see that AMI logo, I'm pressing delete, and I might have missed it because I see the little round toilet bowl. That happened awfully quick. Now, it doesn't matter if I corrupt this Windows because I'm just going to reset it anyway. But if we're going to go into Windows anyway, I could just tell it to reboot to the USB drive and not have to go through that process. What I love about computers is there's probably a half dozen ways to do the same thing. So I'm showing you one of 6 ways. Now I'm going to show you the second of at least 6 different ways we could start this up. And that would be to go to our Start menu and go to Settings, go to Windows Update, go to Advanced Options, go to Recovery, and choose Advanced Startup. Right here it says Restart Now. Are you sure? Yes, we're going to restart now. And that's basically going to bring up a different boot menu that says, what would you like to do on your next boot? And this is for repairing Windows or going into the BIOS or starting from a different boot device. Diagnostics. Even though it's called recovery, we're not actually trying to recover anything, but it is a recovery option that we can select. So now when it restarts, it says, please wait. It never said that before. It's generating that special startup menu where we can now control. Most people wouldn't want this normally. It would drive them crazy. It's taking too long. I got to keep telling all I want to do is start my computer. It keeps asking me, do you want to go to Windows? So it defaults to always going to Windows because that's mostly what you're going to want to do, and it doesn't want to have to ask you every time. But you can absolutely make this come up every single time you start your computer if you want to. We're going to click Use a Device, and we want to use SanDisk Partition 1. That's it. Now it's going to automatically boot override and try and start from the USB drive. Let's see if it posts. It does. Let's see if it loads off of the USB drive. We'll give that a second. It's hard to tell right now because it looks the same, but we'll know if we get the text-based blue startup screen. Yep, there it is. And that's it. There's 2 out of possibly 6 different ways or more that I've accomplished this task. And in most cases, if one doesn't work, the other one will. And if neither one works, then you can move to step 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all out there on the internet. Don't think there's ever just one way to do things. All right, we're going to go. Let's see. I need to see this full screen. Here we go. The next question, one we had yesterday, was, what if your mouse doesn't work? Can you just use the keyboard to answer these questions? And yes, you can. If I press Tab on the keyboard, different areas highlight. See where it says legal, how it just got a square box? I hit Tab, now Next has a square box. So on Next, I can press Enter. And then it says keyboard, I'll tab, watch the little box, goes around US. Now the box is down below its support. Tab again, now it says legal. Tab again, now it says back. Tab, Tab, T-A-B. Now it says Next, press Enter. Tab, Tab, oh. If you want to go back, hit Shift, hold down Shift and Tab. That'll take you back. I'll hit the space bar. Then I'll hit Tab, 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 Enter. See, you don't have to have a mouse. Now, you might also be able to use the arrow keys, and you may be able to switch the space bar and Enter depending. Again, there's often more than one way to do things. It looks like Accept is already highlighted, so I'll just hit Enter. And this is a more painful way to get things done, but you can see you absolutely can just continue to use the Tab or Shift Tab if you've passed where you wanted to go. I'm going to go back to using my mouse because I don't have the patience for it. And we're going to delete everything. We're going to nuke this hard drive and completely wipe it. So I'm going to select every partition on disk 0, our internal drive. Disk 1 is our Windows Media flash drive. So I just want 1 disk 0. You see how I've got 3? That represents every partition. When we do this, we are completely erasing everything on that drive, so I hope there was nothing on there you wanted. Okay, that's what I want to see. This is the way the drive would look brand new from the factory. It doesn't know if you're using this in Linux or Mac or Windows, so the manufacturers don't partition it or format it. because depending on your operating system, it may not be compatible if they did that at the factory. So it'll come out of the box completely unformatted, so you can use it in any platform, even Xbox, etc. So we're going to go ahead and just choose disk 0 and press next. And it will recreate the partitions, reformat them, and do a nice clean install. Now, if the product code is already built into the computer, it won't even ask us what version of Windows we want. You can see here it already automatically selected Windows 11 Pro without asking us. That means the product key is embedded in the BIOS. Otherwise, if you want your product activation to automatically reassign your product code and to automatically reactivate without you doing anything, you're going to need to know what version of Windows you used to have, because if you don't match Pro to Pro or Home to Home, it will not activate and your product code will no longer auto implement itself, because your product code's for a different product than what you installed. But in this case, we don't have to make that decision. It's intelligent enough to realize that the code is embedded, that we didn't provide it from like VIP-URCDKEYs or something, where we have to know what we bought. Okay, if you don't know what you bought, I don't know what to tell you. But at that point, we just start installing Windows. Now, I'm going to go back over to camera 1, and I'll put myself down in a corner so we can see both things, me and the process. Now, without any preparation, without me, I could use Uncle Carey's Windows 11 optimizer to back up my drivers. That's one way. I can go to the manufacturer's website, go to their support section. There should be drivers there. What drivers do I need? I don't know yet. Every system's different. Maybe all the drivers will be provided by Windows Update. Maybe we have a network card that Windows Update doesn't even recognize and we can't even get online. And if that's the case, as you well know, I have a little USB to network adapter. They're under $20 on Amazon. They don't require any external drivers. Just plug it in, Windows recognizes it, plug it into your network, let it download drivers for your network card, then you don't need this anymore. So again, as a professional, I need this a ton of times. I never know what rolls in here and what Windows has by default versus what it doesn't have by default. No two customers are the same, so I am prepared for whatever rolls in, and it's a very inexpensive investment to make my life so much easier. All right, because once I have that network card running, then I can use the internet to get every driver and anything else I need. Right? How you locate it's one thing. But usually the manufacturer of the device will have a support section. So while this is installing, why don't we check that out? So I'm going to jump over to my window capture now. I'm going to be all over with our capture card today. And we know that we have a Kamrui, what is it, E3B. And I'll hit enter. We'll just start with that. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking at these links. I'm looking for Kamrui's website. There it is, Kamrui store, Kamrui E3B. Okay, they make 4 different versions of this, right? They make a Ryzen 7 7730, 7735. What we've got here today is the V2748, which is the newest of all of these. And then, of course, they have a Ryzen 5 7430, and they're all priced accordingly. And what we want the drivers. Now, that's typically going to be found somewhere on the manufacturer's website. Unless you're buying from AliExpress, you should find it here under support. And sure enough, there's drivers and downloads. So under drivers and downloads, we have the E3B. There it is right there. And it's going to take us to Google Drive. And it's going to download a pretty large file. It says the file's too large to preview. But Carey, there's 4 different versions of the E3B. Well, if there's only one driver file, that means all 4 versions share all the same drivers. Meaning everything on the motherboard between them is the same except the processor, and the processor is provided its driver from Windows regardless. So if that's the case, which is what I'm assuming, then it doesn't matter. This one driver zip file will accommodate every version of the E3B. Otherwise, it would be separated out, right? So we're going to verify that, but I'm not going to download it here on the streamer, because then I'd have to figure out how to move it over to the Kamrui, which means putting it on a flash drive. I don't want to work that hard. So once our Windows is done installing, we'll go to Windows Update. And while we're downloading updates, we'll go back to this website and download this on the mini PC. But I just wanted to show you while we're waiting. So let me get back over here. And we didn't miss anything. It's still installing. And if you have questions for me, this is a great time to ask, because We're just sitting here waiting for this process before we can continue. And everything you're seeing here is what you should expect if you choose to go down to this path of reinstalling Windows fresh and clean. This would wipe out pretty much all the viruses. This would wipe out all your data, all your temp files, all of your corrupt registry. This is like resetting this computer to the way it was when it was brand new in the box. Except when we update it, we're going to get newer updates and maybe even newer drivers than the way the manufacturer sent it. So hopefully you back up all your data, because you never quite know why you might need to do this. Maybe you accidentally turned on BitLocker and forgot your BitLocker key, and you don't know BitLocker, whatever. You don't have to pay somebody to do it. You can do this yourself, and as long as you have backups, you're fine. If you don't have backups, you're never going to be fine. You want to walk on a tightrope without a safety net, you will fall. Maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but keep doing it. Keep doing it. Let me know how that works out for you. All right, let me jump back over here to the chat room while we're waiting as the installation is completing and see if you've got any questions for me. Andy said in the previous review there was only a few dollars difference. Yes, the previous review was nearly 1 year ago. And if we were to buy that exact same computer today, are you suggesting that the price would be the same for that exact same computer nearly a year later with all the shortages? Is that what you're... I'm trying to figure out what you're saying, Andy. Because when I was buying gas this time last year, it was $2 a gallon, $3 a gallon. It's now $3.49 a gallon here in the United States, or in Phoenix, I should say. It's the same gallon. So it costs more. If we bought the same PC that we reviewed 12 months ago, it'll cost more. This is only a few dollars difference because they've changed it to keep the price as close as they can to the similar model we compared 12, almost exactly, almost. Can something be exactly at almost? 12 months ago. Do you remember how much you paid for RAM 12 months ago and how much that RAM costs today? Just saying. If you say, well, I'm not going to fill up my gas, I'm not going to buy it, it's too much money, then don't buy gas. I don't care. I guess you don't need to go anywhere. If it's something that you have a choice on, well, congratulations, my friend. Most of us in my line of work do this because we have to. We pay what we have to pay to get the job done. But if it's just a whim for you, then you have the benefit of turning it down. You don't have to have a car to go to work every day, then you don't have to buy gas at their outrageous prices when you were paying so much less for it 11 months ago. Right? We can agree? All right. So let me get back over to, Jose Lopez with a $1 super chat, and Manuel joining us with a €20 super chat. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your support. And let me jump back over to where are we at on this? Oh, okay, perfect. It's just now starting up. When I'm looking at the chat, I often can't see what's going on live over here, but now I can. All right, let me turn off camera one for a second so I can focus on just going through these boilerplate questions here. So US. And one of the mistakes I've made here is I've left the Ethernet plugged into this. So what I should have done before I started was unplug the Ethernet cable because I don't want updates installing during the update. So it doesn't look like that happened, but regardless, I'm unplugging it now because I don't want internet access until we hit the desktop. All right, so keyboard layout, US, secondary keyboard, nope, we're gonna skip that. And yeah, I'm gonna say I don't have internet. We'll put a username of user, enter, enter, and then we'll go to, let's see, location, turn all this off. All right, and we'll hit accept. And by leaving the location setting on, it should always maintain my date and time for me, although it doesn't automatically set the time zone, which I think is weird. So because I'm in my own time zone in Arizona, my own twilight zone, we don't honor daylight saving time. So it'll often default me to Pacific time, which half the year is an hour off. So that's frustrating why Microsoft, when I'm turning location settings on, is not turning my time zone on. But I know to change that. At least 6 months out of the year, it's made very clear to me when I pay attention to the clock being an hour off. The other half of the year, I don't notice it because the clock is on Pacific time half the year. But as it finishes this process, we no longer need to have the Windows installation media installed. We can leave it plugged in, or we can uninstall, unplug it. It doesn't matter. I'm just done with it and bored, and I can't keep still, so I'll just occupy my time by keeping myself busy. When the desktop comes up, I will plug the Ethernet cable back in and we'll check for Windows updates. A lot of the drivers will probably be provided to us through Windows Update, maybe all of them. We still have to download the AMD Adrenalin if we want that. That won't come in from Windows Update. It's the only way you're going to be able to get it. And if still drivers are missing, then I can go to the KAMRUI support site and download that zip file to put in anything that's missing. But I don't know yet that I need it. Now you notice in my start menu there's a lot of ghosted icons, and that's because it doesn't know where in the world I am. In the European Union, some of those icons are not allowed. Here in the United States, they are. So when we plug in, and if we have a driver for this, let's find out what happens and see if those icons populate. Let me get rid of camera 1 so you can see. Watch that bottom right corner. Yep, so we already have a network card driver that came in automatically with our Windows 11. That's one less thing we got to worry about. And if I look here at the device manager, just out of curiosity, we can check and see how many devices are missing drivers just out of the gate on a clean install. Quite a few. Looks like we got about 5. Nope. See, Windows Update is now running in the background. It's automatically putting drivers in. It doesn't even tell us it's doing it. That literally dropped to 4 right before your eyes. Now we can force the matter by simply clicking Start and going to Settings and clicking Windows Update. And we'll check for updates. And while we're waiting, there's a few preference changes I like to make on every computer that comes into my office that I'm doing right now. You may choose to adopt these for yourself, or you may think that's the worst thing you've ever seen in your life. You do you. There's also optional updates waiting for us. There's often drivers here. It says there's 4 drivers here that we have to select by hand. So even though we're getting some AMD drivers, that's still not the Adrenalin software. So we'll go ahead and download and install those, as well as the Windows updates. After we restart, when those take effect, we'll see if there's anything that remains. That might just be all we need. We'll find out when it's done. How long this takes depends on the speed of your computer, the speed of your internet connection. Now, also, how old is your install media that you're using? Well, we're waiting on that. We can still make a few more changes. I want to make sure that the computer doesn't go to sleep on me. So we'll edit our power plan here. And we'll go to, I don't want this display to turn off after 5 minutes on a live video. I'll change that to 2 hours so we don't have to be worried about why the screen went black. That won't happen now. And if I want to look at my time zone, it's an hour off right now. So I'm going to adjust date and time. And all I need to do is turn the time zone automatic detection on. Or I can set the time zone by hand. But it should autocorrect it, and it did. And it'll take care of it from now until we ever change it again. So one and done. Set it up right out of the box. You'll never have to go back and do that again. So that gave me something to do while I was waiting for updates. And now we'll go back over to the chat and see what questions you have for me. Andy mentions the previous model of this headset. I think it was twice the size with twice the amount of RAM. I think if you go back and look at that, you can verify and then check the price today on what that exact model costs today. But look, I'm not here to convince you. I mean, if you don't want to buy it, if you think it's terrible, that's your right. I wouldn't be so judgmental, but you and I have different values, and It's fine. You're welcome to your opinion. I'm not here selling them, my friend. If you buy one, I don't make any money. If you don't buy one, I don't make any money. Just so we're clear. I'm just introducing the product to you. Maybe I'm showing you Chinese food and you don't like Chinese food. That doesn't mean everybody agrees with you, but you have every right to express your opinion. That's fine. We're not going to agree. If you're looking for somebody to agree with you, I'm not agreeing with you, but you're not wrong. It's not right for you. It's not right for you. Ben Laird with a 10-pound super chat. Thank you, Ben. When you saw the screen blank out just now, that was a video driver going on. I'm just looking over the chat to see what I've missed. W.E. Holmes said, spring has sprung in Northern California. The almond trees are in full bloom. Nice. Hobbsville guy says, do you like the Intel driver tool? Yeah, I got nothing against it. Can't beat the price. It's not, it's not going to find drivers for everything Intel on your system. For what it does a really good job. Andy wants to know, what about a price comparison between a SATA and an NVMe of the same capacity? Yeah, we can. I mean, we're just sitting here anyway. It's something to do. Let's open up the browser, and we'll go over to Amazon. That's easy enough. And then we'll grab a window capture here. And so, for example, if you're looking for a 512 gig SATA M.2, you're looking at about $80. And I mean, that's on Rico, which is a discount brand. And Team Group is 96. No, wait a minute. I think these, yeah, that's SATA. So you're looking at close to $100 for that drive in today's market. Even this one here, M Moment, whoever this is, you're right around that $100 price point. Now, if you said, well, what if we wanted to do NVMe, so PCIe, it looks like we've got, I mean, I'm seeing whoever this brand is for actually a little less money. And if you look over here, this would be about the same price. And this one here would be about the same price. But we're also, I want you to keep in mind, we're looking at consumer pricing. So if you're a consumer, right, if you're so myopic that you think that the people who build computers are buying their product on Amazon, they're not paying these prices, right? So from a consumer perspective, and I think the point you're trying to make is, if it's $100 for the NVMe drive and $100 for the SATA drive, they're the same capacity, why would I not buy the NVMe drive? Well, that's a fair point, except remember that the one slot in this Kamrui is SATA only, so it's not going to work in that slot, whether you like it or not. And that's part of the reason the price is cheaper. But when Kamrui or a large PC manufacturer is buying NVMe drives or SATA drives, they're not paying these prices. I mean, we could ask, how much does a 512 gig SATA M2 cost a PC manufacturer in 2026? So PC manufacturers are going to pay roughly $35 to $50, roughly. And I don't know how accurate this is. Well, consumer retail prices will be $60 to $90. But what if it was PCIe? What does that change the manufacturer's cost? Let's see. Well, it's suggesting OEM price is basically the same too. So then the question gets to be, if the price is the same, why in the world would they undersell their product? Why would they do? I want you to think critically on this. If you're the manufacturer, why would you not give your customer the best bang for the buck? Why would you not do that? So my guess, and I can only guess, is that if I were the drive manufacturer, or sorry, if I was the PC manufacturer, and I'm trying to get this PC as cheap as I can, because consumers are just notoriously cheap. They care more in general about saving money than in buying quality. So we say, okay, how do we get them the perceived best value from your typical consumer's perspective? And one way is don't offer the second M.2 slot. Get rid of it. At some point, these are the decisions you have to make as a manufacturer. How much is it going to cost us to put that second slot in there to have the chipset and everything? The slot itself costs money. The manufacturing costs money. But it perceives more value to the consumer to say, hey, you can put a second drive in this. And you say, okay, how much cost does that add? Because I guarantee you that's adding cost. You say, okay, so with both slots being PCIe, you need the number of channels to cover that much bandwidth. Will this CPU handle that? It may be a limitation of the CPU itself. So if we change a CPU out to a different model, then we could have two NVMe's, right? And you say, okay, well, why not just have one NVMe, get rid of the second slot? There's a variety of products made to meet the needs of a variety of people. So just because that's your preference, a lot of people would argue they're not going to see any difference in the performance. They're just typical end users. They don't know what NVMe means. You might as well be speaking a foreign language to them that they don't speak. It means nothing. And for the people who are going to scrutinize and nitpick, you need to raise the price that you're paying if you want to be picky. That's okay. You're allowed to be picky. If I care about the ride quality of my car, instead of buying the cheapest car, I need to spend a little bit more for one that has a nicer suspension. If that's important to me, I need to pay for it. In the meantime, the best a manufacturer can do is offer a variety of products with a variety of upgrade options, whether the RAM is soldered on, whether the RAM is DDR4 or DDR5, what level of processor, how that restricts the lanes of travel, of I/O travel, or expands it depending on the amount of money you're spending, the size of the case, how difficult it is to cool, how much noise you're generating, and the cost of manufacturing, distribution, and then what's your profit at the end of it. So it's not like this is the only PC Kamrui makes, and it would be completely inconsiderate to suggest that this is not ideal for the vast number of owners of computers. But if you're of the technical elite, or you consider yourself technical savvy and you're slumming it looking at stuff like this, it doesn't surprise me that it's not going to be appealing to you, because you don't live in the world of the majority of the population that would never see the difference between an NVMe and a SATA drive on a $300 computer. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be buying it. That's my guess. Like, it's just simple marketing 101. And that's why Kamrui does offer higher end models. So if people do want to be demanding, they can spend a little bit more money for that. Now, that doesn't mean that other manufacturers don't offer a configuration more appealing to you at a price that's more appealing to you. But it's not a universal thought. It's not, we all don't think like you do. And in fact, the vast majority of computer owners don't know what any of this means and would never notice it. But they will always notice the price, regardless of how, if they're technical savvy or not. They're looking at the lowest possible price. That's what consumers do. So as you as a manufacturer offering a variety of products, we appeal to what's going to sell, not to what somebody is vocal about. So if the manufacturer is making candy using sugar and you can't have sugar, they don't care. They're not making it for you. And if they make a version without sugar, but they're not using the right sugar substitute, and you can't eat that either, I can guarantee you the sugar substitute version of the candy won't sell as well. And while some people may love it, the vast majority of people will only eat it if they have to. And then you say, okay, well, it's got to be a certain kind of sugar replacement for me to eat it. And now you're left with specialty manufacturers that have a much larger cost. And so instead of paying $1 for that candy bar, it's $5 because the ingredients are more money and they're made in smaller quantities because fewer people buy them. Everything is supply and demand and economies of scale. So your choices become more and more limited and your price goes up and up and up. But you can absolutely have whatever you want. And if something doesn't appeal to you, it wasn't made for you. That's all I could say. There's got to be some consideration for everybody else that lives on this planet. And the manufacturers are counting on them to keep them in business. They're not counting on the minority of people to keep them in business. That's never who they were after. They might be after that on the higher end products, but the higher end products, they won't sell as many of those. So there is something for everybody, but there's not one thing for everybody. And you might like one manufacturer over another. You might like one color over another. You might demand it has better Wi-Fi. You might demand it has a 2.5 or a 10 gig. You know, you can be as demanding as you're willing to pay for it. Or you might find a competing model from another manufacturer that's similarly equipped that is $10 cheaper. And that's what you're getting upset over because the price difference isn't going to be much. If there is a cheaper model similarly equipped, it won't be significantly more or less. They all have kind of the same expenses, mostly. If you want to forego support and warranty and buy off AliExpress and wait 3 weeks for it to arrive, probably save some money, be your own support, be your own warranty. But again, you're paying less and you're getting less. You're not getting away with something. You're just saying, I don't want that. I'd rather have the extra $50. I don't agree with you on it, but that's okay. But there's a logical reason. They're not out to get you, and they're not trying to rip you off. Nobody's getting rich selling $300 computers. I promise you. Not unless you're selling tons of them. So these are just things that I have to keep in mind as a business that I don't think many consumers really understand. If you're not doing this for a living, it's reasonable that you wouldn't have the basis for consideration because you don't care. Just like I don't care what your professional or personal values are, it doesn't affect me. So the best way I can explain it is, to each their own, and we can agree to disagree. And we continue to evaluate products here for everyone, not just for you, Andy. Okay, we love having you here. I think you're a great guy, but we're not here trying to appease you. We hope that you gain value and knowledge, and how valuable that is to you may be of no value or more value to other viewers watching. That's all. I'm not here to judge us one way or the other. I don't know what people's needs are. So it's right for you, it's right. If it's not, it's not. It's interesting, but it doesn't really change anything for me, or for Kamrui for that matter. If we go back to Amazon and we look at actually, let's go back to Kamrui's website. That'd probably be a more accurate way to see the variety that they sell. Because I'm pretty sure they have a model there that'll meet your scrutinization and also have a price that reflects that. Kamrui is not a high-end brand. They don't have high prices. They've never been known for high prices. And any difference in price that you find from a competitor is probably going to be less than 5%, probably. So if we go back over to our window capture, for example, and we look at all these different models, do you understand why all these are made, right? We have, just on this page, we have 4, 8, 12 different, completely different models, different colors, different shapes, different sizes, different price points, whether or not they're upgradable, how noisy or how hot, or what can be upgraded and what can't, is all going to be reflected in each unique design. And this way is not force feeding us like communists that we all have the same thing and we all pay the same price. You can buy what you need. And if none of these meet your needs, that's fair enough too, right? And the freedom you have to shop elsewhere. So again, I'm just telling you like it is. I don't have a dog in the race, and you can buy whatever is important to you, but that doesn't mean we agree. All right. We get back over to the chat. Marsman50, happy birthday. And he said he's agreeing with me. Okay, well, it's not how I read it, but that's okay. It's not important. I don't require people to agree or not agree. It doesn't play a role in this. It's interesting, though. I'll give you that. Your perspective is interesting. And it's valid for you, no doubt. Let's see. The point I made before was there's no reason for Kamrui to put a SATA in. Yeah, I've reconsidered that. When I thought about what I said after I said it, there actually is a good reason for them to put it in. Because we don't know how much Kamrui is paying for those SATA drives. For all we know, they're getting them for 20 bucks a piece. I promise you, the people at Kamrui are not trying to rip you off. They're trying to get the lowest price point to be as competitive as possible in a very competitive marketplace. That's their only motivation. That's it. They're just trying to make a sale. And the cheaper they can get it, the more likely the sale's going to be. That's why they do it. I can pretty much guarantee it. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. Because if you're going to try and rip off your customers, you're probably not going to have a business very long. It's common sense. So I realized that after I said that I should have reconsidered the motivations behind the manufacturer, because we don't know what they're paying. And likely, the prices we're seeing, they're getting them cheaper than that. It's the only way it makes any sense. Marsman said, thanks for the birthday wishes. Only 24 years, they had 100. And I'll still be watching Carey. Yeah, you think I'm going to be around in 24 years? Where did it go? I just had the message here. W.E. Holmes mentions Kamrui might also choose SATA SSD for lower heat generation, so it requires less cooling. That's possible too. Yeah, we don't know, but that's another variable I hadn't considered. My mother said that when she turned 50, you're going to start counting backwards every birthday. 49, 48. So once we hit 50, we should just start counting backwards. Edward Bass joins us, says hello. Ed Tarian joining us from Springfield, Missouri. Welcome in. Danielle has a fair question. I wonder what the average person who buys a $300 mini PC spends on their internet connection every month. Well, I can give you a few examples because I have customers of all walks of life. Our friend Subaru Mike barely uses the internet. He reads his email, he does a little bit of social media, and he orders parts for cars. That's it. Pretty much. There's an auction site called Nellis Auctions here in the Phoenix area, and he bids on the most ridiculous things that have nothing to do with anything that he does. They're not car parts. It's just, here's an inflatable Coleman jacuzzi that's 50 bucks. I can resell that on Craigslist for 100, and he'll bid on it. He's a hustler, you know. He'll look for ways to turn things around, and he'll put his bid in, and he won't compete with people on the bid. And you know, he'll put his bid in, and if he wins it, he wins it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. So I'll go over to his house, and he'll have a trailer full of just random, like a bathroom fan and light fixtures. What is all this? I got that for $1. I'm going to put it on Craigslist for $10. Okay. I mean, if you don't mind spending your time taking pictures, writing up listings, dealing with answering ridiculous emails all day, you know, he might be making 75 cents an hour when it's all said and done. But, you know, that's what he wants to do. And I guess, you know, all the power to him. So for Mike, he has the cheapest tier of internet that the ISP Cox Communications here in Phoenix offers. That's $50 a month, locked in for 3 years, guaranteed, no price change, and includes the free modem and gateway. No charge for that. So the gateway is yours. There's no down payment. You just pay the $50. Technician comes out, hooks you up. The gateway's got the modem and the router, the Wi-Fi all built into it. You don't pay anything extra for that, as I mentioned. And he barely uses it. He's got the lowest tier he could buy. A lot of elderly people, we have a large senior community here. And that's very common to see the senior community just using the open Wi-Fi of the senior community they live in, and they don't even pay for internet. Other times, a lot of people at home have gotten rid of the computer. They don't even use a computer anymore. They're using streaming services like Netflix through their smart TVs. Again, typically using some basic Wi-Fi that they can get, or they're just using their phones or tablets. That's pretty much it now for consumers. The enthusiasts, the higher level, I'm sorry, but it's a dying breed. At least it is now. Whether that continues to a point of extinction, I don't know. I mean, many of you still use ham radios, but not many people in the population use ham radios. And I think when that generation dies off, that number's only going to get smaller. They won't go away, but there's going to be a point, maybe even today, where if you ask younger generation if they know what a ham radio is, they don't know what it is, and they don't know why you'd want to use it. It might be a novelty, but it's so limited compared to what they can use their phone for and take it with them wherever they go. Why would they want to be locked to one location with an antenna and terrible signal quality and hope and pray that they get a response from somebody and find that to be exciting? You can do that already with this. You don't have to be locked in and worry about an antenna. You can do it while you're on the go. So I think the younger generations are not going to see the appeal of that, but there'll always be industry, like Coast Guard or other scientific community that will always have a purpose for the ham radio, but it'll become more and more and more niche as time goes on. And I don't think it'll ever fade away, but I do see sort of the desktop computer moving in that direction from a consumer perspective. But on the business side, as I mentioned, just like with the ham radio, there will always be need for higher end machines to do the kind of work that company does. And that seems to be the trend. And that was the trend with VCRs, and that was the trend with steam-powered cars and steam-powered trains. They still exist, kinda, but it's almost unheard of now. And even back in the late 1800s, they were making electric cars, but they were too expensive and the range was too limited. So people went with the loud, smelly gasoline car because it was cheaper. One would argue Sony Beta was better quality than VHS, but VHS was cheaper. That's what people bought. Doesn't matter anymore. It's all done. So you got to love living in this world where we're living in an era where things are changing so fast. If this was like, I don't know, 1432, you could live your whole life and see maybe one new invention. We're very blessed to be born in this time where the technology and the inventions are just coming out, whether it's flat screen TVs, high definition television, the stereo technology and how they're able to output such amazing sound from a little teeny tiny speaker in the phone. That wasn't even plausible in the 70s. You know what those little transistor radios sounded like. They're terrible. How is it possible something no bigger than that can sound so full? I don't even know how they do it. It's incredible. And, that's just a few things off the top of my head. We won't even talk about the advances with transportation and automobiles. And I mean, we've seen so much, and it's still coming. We ought to be used to it by now. So it's not surprising to me to see the peak of the home computer and then to see the decline of it. That just goes along with everything else. I don't think it's going to come back. I'd like to be wrong, but I think once the home users have learned to use something else, any motivation to go back will be gone. But again, I would like to be wrong. Businesses don't have a choice, though. So a different story. You guys are talking about your prices on your ISPs? Jim Kenny said, I lucked out, got 60 bucks a month for 3 gig up and down. Yeah, that's multi-gig for 60 bucks a month is pretty impressive. Bike Man said he spent Comcast TV and phone is $212 a month. That's 1 gig down with 40 up. 5-year price lock, unlimited data, free gateway modem, and TV. Everyday pricing for regular TV, popular TV. John Paul Bacon said the Baker Electric Car Company had a very nice electric car from the 1890s to 1920. I think Jay Leno recently showed that very car and drove it. He only drove it a few feet. He didn't take it out on the road, but it's roadworthy and it worked. It's perfectly restored. Of course, Jay Leno has one, right? Andre wants to know, do I still use MCSoft for malware protection? I think the last time I used MCSoft was about 8 years ago, so I think it's been a while since you've been here. I don't think it's a bad product. I just don't find it as useful. For me, Malwarebytes, the paid version, is what I've been using about the last 4 to 6 years, and I don't use anything else. That, along with the built-in Windows Defender, universally for all my clients and myself. MCSoft was more of a tool I relied on after a client got infected. Malwarebytes is a tool I rely on to prevent a client from getting infected in the first place. And while neither product can guarantee cleanup or guarantee prevention, they definitely put the odds in your favor that they'll catch more than they'll miss. So if you have very irresponsible browsing habits, there's nothing that can save you from yourself. If you're just a terrible driver, there's not a car you can buy that's going to be safer for you to drive. You, as a bad driver, will be the dangerous part of the car that no manufacturer can fix, unless it has autonomous self-driving and you let the car do the driving. But you're not going to avoid, your responsibilities behind the wheel of a car because it's a Volvo and it's safer. No, the same rules apply whether it's a safe car or not, that you need to make good decisions behind the wheel. So whether you use MCSoft or you use Malwarebytes or you use something you're paying for, if you're relying on something free for your security, then you obviously don't care about your security. That's obvious to me. If it's not worth it to you to spend a few dollars to protect yourself, then you don't care about protecting yourself. None of the free tools are worth having. If a free tool is used for cleanup like MCSoft or the free version of Malwarebytes, they can be helpful after you've been infected. But your life would be so much easier if you just wouldn't have gotten infected to begin with. So whether that's you making bad browsing, having bad browsing habits, or it's because you just made a mistake, Malwarebytes would pop up and alert you on the paid version immediately after you did that to teach you, this is the effect of what you just did. So you don't have any excuse to not do that again in the future. Malwarebytes already told you. That's a dangerous link. That's a dangerous website. I'm not going to let you go there. And if you say, well, I want to go there anyway, that's on you now. You could have the nicest burglar alarm, the most secure burglar alarm in your house, but you refuse to turn it on. What's the point of having it? So I have nothing against MCSoft. I just don't need it anymore. Tom says, would you ever recommend a mini PC for a business? Almost every one of my clients has at least one mini PC. Sometimes clients, they just don't take these seriously. They just think it's too cheap and it's too little. This is a joke. And so what I do for those clients, I say, let me loan you one. All right? Don't give me any money. Let me loan it to you. And use it. Tell me what you think. And it's almost unanimous. I can't believe it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. That is insane that that sells that cheaply and it's that fast. It's that capable. How many of these can you get? Can we do all of them? Can we do every station? Absolutely. As many as you want. One client said, he said, first of all, you're right. These are amazing and great value, but I'm afraid someone will pick it up and walk out the door with it. And I said, well, they make these steel cables called a Kensington lock, and you can lock it like a bicycle, like to a leg of the furniture. You know, I have no complaints about it. It's very impressive. I just like how much more difficult it is to steal these big towers. And I said, well, how much theft have you been dealing with? Oh, it's never happened. Okay. Listen, I'm happy to build you towers if that's, I don't care. But I'm glad I appreciate you giving it a chance. You have nothing to complain about. You've admitted you are blown away, but there's something in the emotional side that he just won't accept it. And okay, you know what? That's fine. I'm happy to sell you whatever you want. And that's it. Once I don't try and sell anybody. That's why I'm a terrible salesman. I just go here, decide for yourself. Don't give me any money. Just decide. If you don't like it, give it back. If you do like it, I'll give you a price. And usually the longer they have it, the more they can't go without it, because they just freed up a bunch of space, noise. There's no dusting them out like we would with desktop computers. And a couple of my clients have already needed to upgrade. In fact, I've got a machine over here that just came from a client who, the machine is not Windows 10, I'm sorry, it's not Windows 11 compatible. And I said, hey, you know, we're going to need to replace your mini PC because this one's pretty old. And they said, well, can you get me one just like it? I said, well, I'll get you another mini PC, but it's not going to be just like it. It'll look different. But this is an i7 6770. I've removed the SSD and the RAM. Big old power brick. This is an Intel NUC. And this has been in the customer's office for years. He's had nothing but good things to say. I said, well, Intel doesn't make the NUC anymore, and the new NUCs that are made by Asus, they don't have this form factor. But we'll get you something modern. It'll be a different shape. And I think he went with a Minis Forum M1 is what we ended up. He wanted Intel, and he didn't want to lose the number of USB ports. He wanted to be able to plug everything back in again. And then he puts it on his desk. All the way in the back, he's got like a little hutch that his flat screen monitor sits on. And he puts it right under there. So he has access to the front, just beyond his keyboard. And then in the back, all the USB is all plugged in and networking. And so when they put a camera system in, they needed a system for monitoring the cameras. And they said, you know, what can we do this for cheaply? It's not, nobody's going to use it. No one's going to sit at it. It's just going to put a display of the cameras on the screen in the office. And again, I think we went with a Minis Forum there too, and a cheap one, because that's all he needed. And yeah, when you walk in the office, all the cameras are displayed on a big screen TV. So you can see you're being recorded, and you know, the parking lot camera, the reception area camera. I think there's 4 video feeds. And honestly, if he had more than that, it probably would be too small. He'd need a bigger flat screen TV to be able to, you know, the boxes would be too small. So by putting them just 4 of the cameras on, I guess the 4 that are most important to him, the cameras are being recorded on an NVR anyway. But to just have 24/7, it also kind of, if anybody's looking in the windows, they can see that the cameras are running, and it may be a deterrent from anybody thinking of breaking in after hours. So he just leaves it on 24/7. And for that, that was another mini PC, same guy. And then they had a receptionist where when they redesigned their building, they didn't think about a space for the computer. So when you walk into their newly remodeled office, there's a reception desk. And the reception desk has a phone, and it's got business cards and things like that. And you would explain what you're here for as a lawyer's office. And nobody thought to put in a spot for a computer. And they said, Carey, what can we do now that this is all done? We realize If we put a computer underneath the desk, the receptionist has no room for her legs. She's going to keep hitting it over and over again. And if we move it too far, the cables won't run. We don't have cables that long. And then the receptionist is going to have to slide all the way to the other side of the desk, roll her chair anytime she needs to access the computer. Mini PC, we can put it right on the desk underneath the monitor or beside the monitor. We've solved our cable length issues, we've solved our space issues, and it'll cost you less money to purchase than a tower. Problem solved. So do I have clients with mini PCs? Every client has mini PCs, except that one that thought they're just too easy to steal, and he's just more comfortable with the desktop towers. And again, I don't care. Whatever the client wants. It's like, do you have people that order hamburgers with mustard on them? Since I don't like mustard, I don't care if you want mustard. What do I care? You want it? Have it. You want to try it? I'll give you a free taste, you know? You don't like it? You don't prefer it? I don't care. So as long as the customers are happy, that's my job. And I try and save them money and get them solutions that will last a very long time, being reliable, offer good performance, and be trouble-free, right? Be secure, reliable, and have good performance at a very reasonable price that we can implement right away, not wait until they're available. You gotta solve the problem quickly. Mark Leibowitz runs a computer repair shop there out in the Chicago area. He says, I've never had a client object to a mini PC, but I did have one who decided in advance that she wanted a Dell PowerEdge Micro, so I got it for her. Yeah, that's our job. Sometimes the customers don't know what they want, so our job, well, at least the way I see it, is to let them know that they have choices they may not realize. Usually they appreciate it, even if they don't want those choices and their mind is made up. It's still planting a seed for tomorrow, something for them to consider. And they might just surprise you the next time they need a computer and they say, you know, I've been thinking about that mini PC you showed me last year, or whenever it was, and you know what I mean? And that's how the best decisions are made for each client to decide on their own. Mark Leibowitz said Amazon just delivered a UM750L Slim from Minis Forum today that he is getting ready for a client. It's an AMD Ryzen 5 7545 with 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte, $429. Yeah, that seems like a really good deal. Billy said, I just noticed the cat is in the thumbnail. That cat gets into everything around here. Surprised she has not tried to interrupt our broadcast like she did twice yesterday. When she wants attention, she wants attention. Calvin said yesterday it took only 5 seconds to install Windows 11 25H2 and 6 seconds to restart on my new Dell desktop. Why? Most new laptops don't have 25H2 available right away. It requires an image to be made and quality control tested. That's somebody's full-time job. Again, they're not sitting at home configuring one computer one time. They have to configure an entire assembly line. Do you know how many computers Dell manufactures each and every day? And many of those computers are different models and different configs, and they all have to have custom images made and then thoroughly tested before they can be released to the public, or they're going to have a support nightmare that's going to cost them a whole lot of money. So usually it's about 6 months after a new release of Windows before you'll start seeing it at the earliest. And again, I'm saying usually, there's always exceptions, and that's normal in the industry. It's a scale of operations where they're selling tens of thousands of computers every day, every single day. And HP's doing it, and Lenovo's doing it. And the process that they have to go through for verification is something you don't have to do. And that's somebody's full-time job. And that's why. Scale. You can do whatever you want to your computer. And it's very different when you're doing thousands a day, every day, and you have to teach employees how to do it, and you've got to update your technical support on how to answer the questions. Making a little change like that is very, very expensive. And you want to make sure when you release it, you haven't missed something, because you're going to get a flood of customer calls. Mark mentions it's getting harder to find mini PCs with 1 terabyte SSDs. Manufacturers appear to be keeping the prices down mostly by equipping them with 512 gig SSDs. This is true, but it depends on what price point you're looking at. So if you look at the higher end mini PCs from Minisforum, for example, or GMK Tech, when you break about the $500, $600 barrier, that's when you start seeing terabyte drives. If you look at the $3,000 Minisforum S1 Max or MS02, those are both 1 terabyte. And I think they also offer them in 2 terabytes as well. Of course, at $3,000, you also get 128 gigs of ECC RAM. So, I mean, is it 120 or 196? It's ridiculous. So it depends where you're shopping, you know, what your price margin is. So a sub $500, probably 512 will be the most common. Andy says eventually the cat's just going to be sleeping up here. Well, thankfully, she hasn't even tried to make an attempt to jump up here, but that's what I'm afraid of. And then you'll all be looking at cat butt. You got that to look forward to. I don't know that she'll ever do that, but cross that bridge if we get to it. How old is the cat? She won't tell us. She's a stray. Could I cut her open and count her rings? Oh, that doesn't work. That's how you tell a tree's age. Oh, won't make that mistake again. This update's taken a long time, but at least when it's done and we reboot, I'll be very curious to see if the device manager is in good shape. Otherwise, as I mentioned, we'll go download that zip file from the support area of the manufacturer's website, and we'll definitely have the drivers that way. Add the adrenaline driver. We're pretty much good to go. So you can see that if something were to have happened to this and I wasn't prepared, I didn't have the drivers ahead of time, so what? It doesn't really change anything. I like to empower all of you to realize that you don't need to have crutches. And you are fully capable of figuring out an alternative. If you're motivated to get something done, you won't rely on other people to provide it for you. You will be self-reliant, and you'll get up off your butt and you'll hop if you have to get what you want done. I admire the people that are the doers, right? There's the talkers and there's the doers. I have a great respect. Even if they do it wrong, at least they did it. You know what I mean? At least they tried. So many people will talk about something and never actually do it, and it drives me up a wall, because they'll never actually learn anything until they finally do it, or they will forever be dependent upon other people. And if they want to live their life that way, I mean, that's fine with them, but that's no way I want to live. That's like being in jail. I wouldn't want to voluntarily subject myself to the whims of others. But that's just part of my personality. Jim mentions we did have a computer recently that did come with 25H2 installed. That is correct, yeah. I mentioned it and how I was surprised we saw it so early. I don't expect to see it until around, well, it came out in October, right? So November, December, January, February, March, April. I don't expect to see it till April at the earliest. And the fact we've already seen one, hey, that's great, but only one. Can't really see my screen too well, so I see that it's updating, but I can't see the percentage. It's too tiny. Oh, it's the preview. Okay, so it's installing at 81%. We're almost done. And I can tell this no thanks down here. Get rid of it. Very good. Everything's working as expected. This thing is rock solid, quiet, runs nice and cool. And, it's another option to consider in the market where, the next phase of this is you won't be able to buy anything. When they run out of SSDs and they run out of RAM, all that will be remaining is what's old. You know that's coming, right? You are aware of this. So whatever your issues are today with price or value on this, let's talk about it in 6 months. Because, well, it may never reach a point of complete extinction in the marketplace. What will be available will either be very, very expensive, out of stock, or old inventory, something that nobody's been buying and nobody wants it. And now suddenly it's your only option. Those days are coming. If things remain the same, just so you know what to look forward to. You won't worry about the price because there won't be any available for sale at any price. That's likely where we're headed. So I don't want that to be true, but I would certainly prepare for the worst and hope for the best. This is going to get more expensive and harder to find. And, we revisit this in the fall or late summer. I hope I'm proven wrong. Hobbsville guy said, I'm glad you decided to assure her I have been a cat lover for many years. I don't think Mara decided that. I think the cat decided it wasn't leaving. Don't get me wrong, Mara would love nothing better, but I don't think it really worked out the way you think it worked out. That cat does not want to go back outside, period. It's like, I'm done with being outside now. The cat used to lay by the lounge pool, by the pool. I said, wow, the cat's got it made. She just needs a little cocktail. Man, she don't even want to do that no more. Not interested. Now, maybe she's just a hot weather cat. Maybe when the summer comes around, she'll want to go back out. But she isn't going to run away. I'll tell you that, at any point, even if she decides to go back out, she'll be back in time for dinner. I'll tell you that. And then it gets scary and noisy at night, so she'll probably want to come in to feel safe. We'll see what happens, but she'll do it. The cat will do what the cat wants, and we'll just go with it. And Mara couldn't be happier. And I'm just like, I'm not a cat person, but there's nothing to dislike about this cat. So I've told the cat, I'm not a cat person, and the cat says, too bad, you are now. I said, no, I'm not. The cat said, yes, you are, because I decided you are. What are you going to do about it? I'm like, well, be mean, scratch me, hiss at me. I would never scratch or hiss at you. Well, I got nothing to complain about, I guess. Say you're a cat person, just like I told you. Now feed me. That's closer to how the reality is. I'm a dog person. I'll take a dog any day. But this is the nicest cat. She doesn't cause any damage to the furniture. She uses a litter box. I don't know what else to say. I would love to find a reason to be able to justify why I'm not a cat person, but not all cats are like this. Calvin wants to know, do I normally do live stream whenever there's new feature update for Windows 11, like you did with Windows 10? If there's a feature update we're talking about, I don't think all feature updates are of interest to the general public. Sometimes they are. Like, I don't care that the start menu's changed. What do I care? I'm going to make a video about the start menu? No. You can move the taskbar. Who cares? I don't care. Most people don't care. And the ones who do care are vocal on the internet, but they don't represent the population on this planet, not even close. So they can live in their own little world and have their own little group and all just be sycophants to each other, agreeing with what they want to hear. But in business, I'm in business to earn a living, to satisfy the customer's needs. And no customer's ever called me to complain about their start menu. Just never happened. But if there's an update that breaks something, I'll let you know. And just maybe once every 2 years, we might see something where a printer doesn't print. Very minor little networking issue that we had to resolve for security reasons, because the internet's getting more and more dangerous. But that's all built into the optimizer tool now. And those are the issues that I deal with in my job. And that's what determines what goes into the optimizer. It's not on a whim of people on the internet just looking to mess with things. And they're welcome to do that. And I don't mind if they do. I just can't pay my bills with that. So yeah, when there are updates that I think are worthy of talking about, I will certainly talk about them. But otherwise, you know, I don't think they're of interest to most people care. And it was that way with Windows 10. Nothing's changed. It's still the same. Let's go back over here. Let me go full screen. Wrong full screen there. Let me go full screen to this little guy. And I'm referring to my view, not yours. Let's take a look at a couple of things. One, I want to get rid of this distracting wallpaper. So let's go to personalize and change this to just regular Windows 11 theme. I also want to reduce that resolution. That 4K is tough on my eyes. It's better. Now let's take a look in the device manager. And let's see if we have any issues. Okay, a couple of things are missing. We have a network controller. That's probably a MediaTek driver. Since our LAN driver is working, this must be the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And multimedia might be related to that, or the speakers. I don't know. So what I would do at this point is, once again, we're going to go back to Windows Update. And we'll just check one more time. Just if we're going to get drivers automatically, just because we didn't get them on the first go doesn't mean we won't get them on the second. And while that checks, I'll also show you, if we check our activation status, that our product key would have already been activated in the background without us even being aware of it. So if I go to activation settings, you will see it's active. You never saw me put a product key on, did you? Welcome to 2026, my friends. You don't have to take these things we learned 20 years ago and think they still apply today, unless you want to make your life a lot harder than it needs to be. This is the battle I face. Like people say, I've been doing this long and you're doing it wrong. Well, if we're back 20 years ago, you'd be right. So that's what I'm trying to do, is help people keep up with the changes, as I'm trying to keep up with the changes. And as I learn it and I go, oh, that's fascinating, I want to make sure other people know it too. Because if I didn't know, I can't be alone. And it's not about insulting anybody. It's just like saying, hey, life gets better when you have current information. At least it did for me. So we're not getting any more driver updates. I mean, we can look under advanced options just to check and see. There are 0 available. So what I'll do, well, it's downloading that update. And again, we don't have to sit and wait for updates. Like if you're at home doing Windows updates and you notice I'm sitting here talking to the audience, I could be using this computer to do other things. I just want the updates to get done so we can move on. And there's nothing else I have to do with the computer on these live videos in most cases other than wait for the results of the updates, right? So that's why I just chat with you guys. But you on your home computer, you can still open your Outlook or check your email or go watch YouTube while all of these updates are happening. And even when it wants to reboot, you can say, I'm in the middle of a video, don't bother me now. It'll wait until you're ready. So we're going to go over here, we're going to go back to, we'll do the Kamrui, what was this, an E3B? And then we'll look for Kamrui's website right here. And then we'll go over to support right here. And then drivers and downloads right there. E3B right here, hit download. That opens up Google Drive. We'll hit download and download anyway. 649 megs is a lot of drivers. Now it's saying, we're sorry you cannot view or download this file at this time because I don't have a Gmail account that I'm logged into. If you do have a Google account or a Gmail account or a YouTube account and you are signed into it, you won't get this message. What Google is saying is a lot of people are hammering on the site right now for free, and we ration out how many free viewers, people without accounts, can download files of this size every 24 hours. And that's already been exceeded for the rest of today. But if I come over here to the streaming computer over here, and we'll go over to the same website where I am logged in because I'm on YouTube, right? I'm broadcasting, I have to be logged in. You'll see the link will work over here because I'm logged in. Watch. Same thing. File is too large. Oh, this is the T8. I don't want the T8. I want the E3B. Download, download, download anyway. And you notice that's working. And that's the only difference. So just so you know, if you want to be anonymous and you care so much about your privacy, you probably shouldn't be using a computer because it's going to limit what you can do severely. Or if you insist on living that lifestyle, know that you're going to have problems and issues the rest of us don't have. And that behavior also makes you stand out, whereas the rest of us just blend in. You know the old Japanese expression, the nail that sticks up gets hit by the hammer? If you really make it so obvious that you're trying to hide, you're not hiding, you're doing the opposite, you're standing out. When you blend in, you have security through obscurity. You're just another face in the crowd. It doesn't stand out. Don't draw attention to yourself. Nobody can care less. All right? That already downloaded. So what I can do, since I don't have, I have two choices at this point. One is I could sign into an account here to download that file direct. I could grab a flash drive and just simply copy the file the old sneaker net way, which, do I have it empty? Yeah, this will be fine. I'll just use this. Normally I use this for BIOS flashing. We'll just plug it into the back of the streamer. So yeah, you may need a second computer to download drivers for the first computer. That's always possible. Or at the very least, you know, if they're hosting files on OneDrive or Google Drive, you may need to have an account if the free amount of usage, which they both do the same thing, by the way. If the free amount has been exceeded for that day, just wait till tomorrow. I mean, if you don't mind that inconvenience, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're impatient, then you need to, you know, follow the same, get in the same line as the rest of us, is what I'm saying. And if that line wants you to have an account, or you got to go wait in the longer line for people without accounts, be in the right line. And it's your choice which line you're welcome to. Let's go over to our downloads and we'll grab that zip file and we'll copy it over to the flash drive. As I mentioned, this is a pretty slow flash drive. It's only going to move the data about 12 megabytes per second. It's only USB 2, but it's only a 650 meg file, so it's going to take 1 minute. Who cares? It's going to take 20 seconds or 60 seconds. I don't care. So that's copying over right now. When that's done, I'm going to take the flash drive out, plug it in here, copy it over here, and then I don't have to download it. I also could have downloaded it before I erased it. Before I wiped the system, I could have prepared. I could have used the Windows 11 optimizer and made my own driver backup for free. Oh, or the optimizer does it at no additional cost, I should say. So we're just about done with that. 20 more seconds.
Email and feed Sable.
Got to feed the cat, and we got to check our email. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. As soon as I get this copying over to the Mini, while we're waiting for the copy, we'll. I didn't know you spoke Cantonese. All right. So the copy's done, and I don't need to safely eject. I can just pull the flash drive. We'll plug it in over here. And then let's go full screen over here. Close all this. Oops. Close all that out. So we can close this too. Should see, yeah, there's the flash drive. There's the zip file. We'll right click on it. I'll do a cut and a paste because I don't need to keep it on the flash drive. 2 birds, 1 stone. And we'll just paste that over And so yeah, it should take about the same amount of time. Still USB 2 regardless. Actually, reading is faster than writing. On this flash drive, it'll read at 26, 28 megabytes per second. Only writes at around 12 to 14. So you don't need to have the fastest, flash drive, unless you're moving very large files and you're doing it frequently. Thank you to Luke Greenia, who just sent a PayPal contribution. He says, friends helping friends. Right on. Thank you, Luke. As always, we appreciate your friendship and your continued support, of course. Appreciate that, my friend. Now, with that done, this flash drive is now empty. So it's back to being ready to be used for some future purpose. So I'll put it back in the drawer. And we'll go ahead and we'll just go ahead and extract this. So right here it says extract all, and hit extract. And that will basically open the UPS box up and take all the little parts inside of the box out. A zip file is just a container, like a box is a container. And then you can see all this stuff was shoved in the box. Then we're just moving one box, right? When you pack up and move your house, you put everything in boxes. That's so you don't have to put everything in one at a time. Every little trinket and every little thing, you pack it into a box, and then you just move the box. When you get home, you unpack the box, or you get to your new location. That's what a zip file is. So now what I can do is, if we look at the extracted file, and sometimes people get confused if you have file extensions turned off, which one's the zip file, the one that's got a zipper on the folder. There's a zipper there. I don't need that one. I need the extracted one. And when I double click on it, you'll see there's a bunch of folders here. And depending on the company, you don't have to click on these individually. Again, there's 6 different ways to do things, but it's nice when they pay a developer, because this is something custom made by Kamrui, to just make a one-time click for you. And if we right-click on that, I don't know if I need to run it as an administrator, but I'm going to do it because it won't hurt. And this should install all the drivers for us old school, where you don't get the graphical interface and the progress bar. This is how we used to install drivers back in the day, and it still works today. And it's a very customer-friendly thing to do, because if you had to click on each one of those folders and do each install differently, it's a pain in the butt. You might have an MSI file on one, an EXE file on another, and just an INF. Or you can go in the device manager and you can choose to have the device manager load everything from that particular folder. Again, there's like 6 different ways to do it. But the fact that they have paid a developer to come up with this is not something they're obligated to do, and most manufacturers don't. Now, if you already have the driver, it won't hurt you to put it back on again. So it just puts them all on. Now, we do have something here that comes up that's a little wonky, and I'm just going to ignore it because I don't really think it matters. And we probably need to restart the computer, but let me just look in the device manager out of curiosity if that took care of things. It did not. So what that tells me is we need to reboot. So let's reboot, and then we'll go back in the device manager. I think 25H2 of the Windows and that driver installer, there's something that's changed, and they haven't updated the driver installer. That's your thanks you get for developing and paying for a program that helps your customers, is that when Microsoft changes something in Windows, you have to pay your developer again to then rewrite the code and then test it so it works on the previous version and the new version. And then it's a never-ending thing. It'll always keep changing. So if the program code is older, it may run into an issue as a result of a Windows update. That doesn't mean anything's wrong with it, and there's nothing to worry about. Because again, there's 6 different ways to do this. In most cases, you won't see that, but when you do, it's not a big deal. So when we go back now on a reboot and right-click and choose to look at the device manager, let's see. So things haven't changed. So you say, okay, well, installed a bunch of drivers, but clearly not the ones we needed here. Now, maybe because that error came up and it broke the process, I don't know. But what I do know is if I click on anything in the device manager, I want you to watch this top row. How many icons do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But when I click on something, we just got an extra one right here. It says add drivers. Remember I said there's 6 different ways to do just about anything on a computer. This is another way. It says, what driver do you want to load? I want to load them all. Every one of them. All right, well, where are they? I'm going to tell you where they are. They're under downloads. And I can leave it at that, or I can be more specific and even go that far. It doesn't matter. It'll find it. All I need to do is point it in the right direction like a rocket and let it go. It'll do the work for me. That easy. And it's been this way since Windows 7. Most people don't know anything about this. Most content creators and enthusiasts have no clue. So that's what I'm here as a professional, to show you how we do things differently. And you know what? If you already knew it, that's great. I'm telling you, most people don't know. This is new information. Unless you're a regular here, most people don't know this. You could manually click on every little item and do it the old school way, but you're really doing it the hard way. So all I'm trying to do is empower you. I'm not trying to belittle anybody. I'm not calling anybody dumb. I'm just saying, look how much better this is now. And it's usually the reaction is, how long has it been this way? How long have I been doing it the hard way? Quite a number of years, my friend, but it can all change today if you wanted to. Better than tomorrow or next month. And so what this is doing is it's looking in the folder and subfolders of the main folder we picked to find any drivers and automatically add them with impunity. It just takes them all. So again, there may be some duplication, doesn't matter, doesn't hurt anything. And it says drivers successfully installed. We click close and we restart. There you go. Now I promise you, when we reboot, that device manager is going to be perfect. Guarantee it. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. And then we can download the AMD Adrenalin drivers if you want them. And at that point now, we're ready to start using the computer. Start putting your applications on it, add your printer, reboot after you make changes. So if anything doesn't work, you know exactly what's caused that, was the last thing you changed. If you make 10 changes and then you reboot and you have a problem, good luck figuring out which of the 10 changes caused that. That's on you. If you want to do it that way, I'm not here to stop you, but I can't operate my business like that. I will lose too much money hoping for the best. I need to guarantee an outcome. And if the outcome isn't what I expect, I'm not going to spend an hour and a half figuring out why. I will know exactly the last change I did, and I will undo that change and focus my attention on resolving it once I know the cause. And sometimes if you make all these changes, you don't know which of those changes is the cause, and you'll be stuck for a while. I'll be done. All right, then that's the way I do it. I want to right click on the start menu, and we're going to go back to device manager, and let's see if I'm right. Is everything happy? Everything's happy. So we started with nothing, just a Windows Media installer, no drivers. We tried using the driver auto installer, which is great when it works, but if it doesn't, we could have skipped that and just did it the device manager way the first time. But no big deal, the judgment call. We've got all our Windows updates installed, so if I want to grab the AMD Adrenalin driver, then we'll just type AMD Adrenalin. Right here, first link is what we want. We'll hit download software. Isn't it funny? It says it's a software, but here it says it's a driver. I don't know which one it is, but that's fine. We'll download that real quick, and then we will open that file. And that should provide us with the latest video driver that's built into our CPU and our latest chipset driver that's on the motherboard. So we can close this out and just pay attention now to our install. And this installer from AMD looks to see what you have, to see that you have the hardware that this provides drivers for. And this is saying, yeah, AMD Radeon graphics were detected, and the AMD embedded V2748 as our CPU was detected, with the chipset drivers also being offered. So we hit accept and install, and all there is to it. That's everything. The rest is your customizations and preferences. Does anybody have any questions for me? We're going to wrap it up here. We've been on about 2.5 hours. We've gone a little bit long today, but that's normal for me, right? Edward Bass said, I'm new around here. I didn't know about that. Well, that's why, for the regulars, we ask for their patience, that we have new viewers all the time. And sometimes I've said something 400 times and the viewers are like, why do you keep repeating yourself? We hope we get new viewers and we don't want to alienate them. So critical information I will repeat and repeat and repeat. And the other benefit of repeating it is so you don't forget it. You don't go, how did Carey do that? You'll be so sick of hearing me saying it, you can't help but learn it whether you wanted to know it or not. And when you didn't want to know it, it's because you didn't need it. Now you need it and you're like, what did he say? There's some things you're going to hear me spout off about so much that you can't help but remember what I said. And then you'll say, oh man, I'm glad I remembered that. I need that right now. Yeah. Oh, our install is done. Let me jump back over there for a second. Turn off camera 1 here. Do I want to help AMD improve my experience? I don't. And now we should get an icon down here with the AMD Adrenalin software running. There it is. And it should self-open anyway at this point, since it's the first run, and make sure we're current and up to date. And everything looks good. Unfortunately, this software was not pre-installed by the manufacturer, so this is why quality control checking is stuff like this gets missed when they rush it out the door. And that means you have to start all over again, basically. That's why you won't see companies rush to get this done. And when companies do rush to get it done, it's pretty common to find these little spots they've missed. And, that's just the industry. Sooner you get it out, the less money it costs you to pay the employee. So if the employee rushes through it, it's probably not going to be as thorough of a job. And companies like Dell and HP, they have an opposite. The quality's got to be there before they release it. There are shareholders and investors that have their money into this that they're going to hold you accountable for. If you're the CEO or on the board of directors making the decisions and it's costing your investors money, they could oust you right out of your position if they feel that you're impeding their profits. And then you've got the customers who you can piss off too. So, yeah. Everybody thinks the board of directors just sits around in their cushy chairs and making decisions without consequences. I assure you, there's a number of CEOs sitting in jail right now. What was his name? Bernard over there at Nissan. He's left the country to avoid being arrested. There was a CEO of a peanut butter factory that had the worst food poisoning that infected the United States ever in the history of food processing. And he did it knowingly and willfully. I think 8 people died. It was like a salmonella outbreak, and he was aware of it, and he didn't want to lose the money. He said, ship the product anyway. Hundreds, if not thousands of people got sick. And this went on, and it was the largest food recall in the history of the United States. He's in jail. It's basically murder. But it was going to cost him money, You'd have to destroy all that peanut butter. And, you still had to address the issue at the factory that was contaminating the peanut butter. Just ship it out. He knowingly and willfully made that decision, and as we speak, sits in jail as far as I know. And that was many years ago. So, well, these companies, these board of directors often make good money. The consequences that they hold as a result of their decisions, well, just saying. It's not like you can't do it wrong. And Manuel with another €3.33 contribution. He said that's for the cats and the dogs. Thank you, Manuel. The cat says meow. Again, any final questions? I'll do my best to provide an answer for you, a direct and honest answer if I have it, or to direct you to where the answer could be found. Or our chat room may also know the answer as well. Quite frequently they do. So don't dismiss any offers of solutions offered in our community, because we have a very knowledgeable, very kind and helpful community here. And we'd love, if you're not already a part of it, for you to become a part of it. And you don't have to pay anything for that. You just have to be kind. We have a new Minis Forum machine coming in, and it's pretty exciting. Problem is, it's not available yet. But once it's available, we'll have it. And it's the G7. And even though I'm here talking about the Kamrui, I just want to take a moment to let you know that we have something in the works here that's very expensive. You know, the people that would buy this would not be buying this thing I want to show you. Minis Forum, I'll just look on Amazon, G7. So this is about a $1,700 mini PC. And we're looking at an i9 processor. Now you can see for $1,359, you can get it without RAM or storage, just provide your own. But with 1 terabyte of RAM, and 1 terabyte of storage and 32 gigs of RAM, you're looking at about $1,699. And what makes this so special is you effectively have a gaming computer here, a proper discrete graphics card. Basically an RTX 5070 is built in on a Core i9-14900HX. That's a 24-core processor with 32 threads, up to 5.8 gigahertz, and it's DDR5, of course. And you're looking at, you know, RTX 5070 level gameplay capability in a form factor that is much more console than PC. So I'm super excited about that. And the other one that I'd like to get, you can imagine this is costing Minis Forum a lot of money, is the G1. And the G1, again, we're still looking about the same price. This is about $1,500. And what this is also being marketed as a gaming PC. It's a little different in that it's an AMD Ryzen 9 8945 for the AMD fans, 16 core, 32 threads, 5.4 gigahertz, and the RTX 5060 built in with the same amount of RAM and storage as the Intel variant. 5 gig Ethernet with Wi-Fi 7, then supports up to 4 monitors, 4K a piece at the same time, 245 watt performance. So I hope I get this one first. I'm more interested in the G1. The only reason is because the G7 is similar to the previous models we've looked at on the Minis Forum. Oh shoot, I can't remember the name. It used to be called a NUC X, an i9 NUC X, and then they changed the name when Intel stopped doing the NUC. And it has that book-like stature footprint. This one's footprint's quite a bit different, and Minis Forum's high end is called Atom Man, so it says Atom Man up there. There's no such thing as a cheap Atom Man computer any more than there's a cheap Rolls-Royce. But when it comes to gaming computers, it's easy to spend $3,000 to $5,000 on one. So you're at a very reasonable price for a capable AAA title capable gaming PC. Much cheaper than if you built it yourself. But and all these other ones are all different models. This is how many Minis Forum makes for all different purposes, right? Whether you need AI, something slim, something very inexpensive, something middle of the road, something for gaming, something for game development, or local language model AI development for controlling factories and maybe replacing employees. You can do that in-house with a unit like the X1 Pro, for example. So in any event, just to let you know, we're working on getting that from Minis Forum here as soon as they become available. We're We're on the list. We're in line. We have to wait our turn. That seems to be the theme for today. David Martinez with a $5 super chat. Carey, where did you get the screwdriver set? Oh, the Nanch screwdriver set. Yeah, if we go back over here to Amazon, everything's pretty much Amazon. If we go back over to Amazon, and I'll just type in the word Nanch. It's like the word ranch, but with the letter N. Nanch. And the very first suggestion right there, that's what we've got. 45 bucks. 55 in one. That's what you're seeing me use today. I've had this for years. Look at the reviews. I'd have to look at my receipt to see what year I bought this, but it was probably prior to the pandemic. Other questions? If you're going to have a separate GPU, you need a bigger box. Well, no, you don't, because, you know, they have devices like this. I'm going to just disagree with you all day today, Andy. This is the DEG2, and this is an external dock that needs its own power supply, and then you run an Oculink cable, and you put whatever graphics card you want with no limits. You want to put a 5090 Ti in here? No problem. This also does a little bit more than that. It's got an NVMe slot, and it can work as a dock to switch between a laptop and a desktop. And I haven't even unwrapped this yet, because for me, I'm not a fan of having your graphics card external, but I mean, clearly there's enough people buying these. Minisform isn't the only one who makes them, but you're not limited to have to put it in a box. But you can if you want to. All right, we have options, is all I'm saying. W. Holmes mentions a company called Stabito is another good set of screwdrivers from Amazon. I've never heard of them, first I've heard, but I think I'm good on screwdrivers for a while. So I don't have any need to look at them, but for other people that want to check them out, yeah, decide for yourselves. There's no, nothing wrong with having choices. You don't have to make my choices. This is just what I use. Somebody asked where'd I get it. I'm just answering your questions. All right. Calvin says my new Dell laptop had pre-installed a SanDisk SN5000 NVMe. How long does this NVMe last before it fails? It will probably outlive you. In most circumstances, modern solid-state drives will live longer than the users who buy them. When SSDs fail, it's often because the user has dropped it, spilled something on it, mistreated it, or tortured it to a point of overheating over and over and over that kills the drive. But when it's used as intended, it will last probably longer than the human who bought it. More than 70 years on average. Have you seen any failed ones in your lifetime? I'm just curious. They do fail. It's just not very common. You could have a power outage or something, or a lightning strike, and that can cause its failure, but that's not its fault. Right? Those are external forces beyond our control, an act of nature. But when used as intended and left alone, yeah, it should outlive you. In fact, you'll probably replace it because it's too small or too slow long before it ever fails. I wish I could say the same for mechanical drives. If you want your data to last, don't put it on a mechanical drive. It's one of the worst archival processes that you could say. There's people online that'll tell you exactly the opposite, and they're not professionals. Talk to data recovery specialists like our friend Brian Cometa at $300 Data Recovery. Find a professional, not a Google search. Talk to a professional that is validated as a real professional in data recovery, and ask them what they think a good archival format is and how long this technology should last. Don't even listen to me on it. Listen to the pros on that if you want the truth. But no matter what the averages are, doesn't mean that's what it's going to be for you. If most people live to the age of 74 and you only live to be 52, You know what I mean? Just because the average age or lifespan of an individual is a certain number, that is not your expiration date. That's an overall average. Some people will die at birth. Some people will live to be over 100 years old. And you average all that out and you get to about, I don't know what it is now. In the United States, I think for males, it's around 73, 74 years old. I know plenty of people older than that, but that's the average. So when you're asking how long will my SSD, it's like asking how long are you going to last? Do you know when you're going to die? Because that's what you're asking me. If you know anybody who can answer that, my guess is you're very ill. You're, you know what I mean? I'm going to be hit by a bus tomorrow at 3. So some questions are up to nature. Andy says he'd like to see a review of the DEG2 external, the GPU. Well, that's why we've got it. I just haven't. It's very difficult for me to demo it. We have a pretty small desk, right? I have mini foreign computers with Oculink, and I do have some graphics cards laying about, and I do have power supplies laying about. And we have reviewed the DEG1. So this is essentially the same thing with a little bit of added features. And it is on my to-do list, but it's not a high priority item for me because we're not a gaming channel, right? But nonetheless, I did commit to Minisforum. I said if they send it to me, I will review it. So I just haven't been motivated. I honestly will never use it. And I don't have a customer that will ever request an external GPU dock. There's no business client that exists that I'm aware of that would want that. This is mostly a home gamer setup type thing. And it's not that it's off limits for us. It's just not my speciality. So I'll do it. But I'm not real excited about it. It's like, all right, it's interesting. And then I'll put it on a shelf and then there it'll sit because I can't see any reasonable excuse for why you would want to make things complicated and expose this expensive hardware to pets and static and animal, you know, fur, children's fingers with fans spinning. It just seems like a bad idea. But clearly they have enough interest that they sell enough of them to justify they exist. I've never met anybody that actually has one, but they must be out there. So long and short of it is we will review it. I just don't know when yet. Arthur says, don't M.2 solid state drives have a limited number of read and writes they can make? No, no. Again, there's misinformation. Let's talk about the misinformation for just a minute. And many of the people that watch this channel, they're going to roll their eyes and go, here we go again. Yes. For whatever reason, wives' tales and false information spreads more than factual information. My question would be, have you ever seen a solid state drive fail? Number one. And if so, how many have you seen in your entire life? Right? So before I tell you anything, I want to know, are you just making things up or believing what people are telling you? Or have you had an experience that explains your trauma or your anxiety? Because there's no justification for you to have this anxiety. You've been given toxic, poisonous, bad information. So one of the common misconceptions that will not die is that when a solid state drive fails, when it exceeds its number of writes, which no one I've ever met in my life has ever exceeded the writes of an SSD. And I've only read about it online when somebody was just writing the crap out of an SSD until it failed, nonstop 24/7, and slammed on it until it failed. But SSDs don't fail like that. When an SSD reaches its write limit, that's not the number of years on the warranty. So when people look at the warranty and it says, you know, 5 years, whatever, on an NVMe drive, they're not talking about the lifespan. People get this all screwed up. They go, well, it says it's 5 years or 130 terabytes written. That's not a limit of what the device can do. When your car warranty says it's 3 years or 36,000 miles, it doesn't mean when you hit 36,000 miles, the car won't work anymore. It just won't be under warranty anymore. So whichever comes first, the 3 years or the 36,000. But that's no indication of the lifespan of the car. But some reason people have it in their heads that despite everything in their world all operating on the same time versus use pattern, they've locked it in their head. They're so gullible to think that when they talk about terabytes written, TBW, that we're referring to the lifespan and not the warranty. Why is it different for this than everything else in your life? There's no critical thinking happening here. The second thing is, if you were able to exceed the life of the rights of the cells, this becomes read-only. It just won't let you write to it anymore. So what? So in other words, if we have worn out the cell's ability to write, which I don't think you could do in a lifetime, but let's say you're 1 in a million people that can make it happen, this will still be read. Everything on it's still readable. That's, again, false information that's poisoning your brain on the internet that continually gets propagated, that goes against any sort of fact, and it's just a lack of education on the people making the videos. They don't know any better. So, not to worry. If for some reason I eliminated all my write cycles, all the data on here is forever on here. I won't be able to erase the data. I won't be able to change the data. That's it. And if I want to then securely erase this and throw it away, I'll have to put it into a shredder and shred this device. Okay? It's always been that way since the invention of the SSD. Nothing has changed. And yet, since the invention of the SSD, this information, the misinformation, continues to propagate despite very obvious critical thinking solutions that are very easy to verify from the manufacturers. And I do what I can, you know, being a professional in the industry, to try and educate, but I am outnumbered, man. We got 10,000 creators spouting false information and 12 that are spouting actual, regular, factual information that are in the industry because they have to know. And it's your choice as a viewer. It's your responsibility to understand where you're getting your information. If your information is not coming from a reputable industry source, not a guy who makes videos. You can be in the industry and make videos, but most people who make videos, they're not in the industry. The last thing people want to do when they come home from work is make a video to talk about work. I'm twisted that way. I love what I do. So I am vastly outnumbered from the enthusiasts who are just having a good time and spouting off what they learned off Reddit or somewhere else where they didn't verify the source. And it's irresponsible for them to then propagate that information. And you look up to them because you think they know what they're talking about, and they're completely clueless. It'd be like watching a television show like House MD. And you're a real doctor and you go, oh, that's not good. What House did is not, that's not how we do it. But if you're not a doctor, you might believe everything he did was feasible. It's not how it works. It's great entertainment, but that's not education. And I'll say the same with the enthusiasts. Great entertainment. I got nothing bad. No hatred on the enthusiasts, but they're entertainers. You work in the industry and you want to share your experience. Let me give you an example. If we jump over to, let's go back over here for a second, because I want to show you how to spot the difference. That's not it. Hold on. Is it this one? Okay. If you really want to know the truth and you want to get it from a trusted resource, you've got to go to somebody in the industry. So if we go to YouTube, and you want to know what kind of problems do real techs fix, not the enthusiasts. Like when somebody's paid as a tech, are we overclocking or installing liquid coolers or adjusting or installing RGB lights? Never. Never. It's not even related to being a technician. None of that. There may be some exceptions in the industry, but overall, it's not a skill that anybody's going to ask you on an interview. So you say level 1 support questions. So let's say you're curious about what it is to be in tech support. Then you want to look for titles of people who want to share their job with you. So this guy here, he's obviously worked in IT, right? And he wants to share with you what he's learned about what it means to be in IT. And if you search for it, you'll find it. This guy here, Jake's Tech, he has started in IT just maybe a year and a half ago, and he's already been promoted. He loves what he's doing. He loves learning new things. He's eager and ambitious, and the opportunities are there for him, but they may not be there for you because you don't have his attitude. And that can separate who gets promoted and who gets employed more than your skill, is your attitude. And he's got a great attitude. And he shares with you the mistakes he's made and the kind of trouble tickets he had to solve today. And it won't be like anything you probably ever heard of before. This guy will explain what IT does. Why is there level 1, level 2, level 3? What's the difference? And if you start getting information from people in the industry, more than likely that information is 100% true. But if you're getting information from an entertainment channel, then its main goal is to entertain you, not to educate you. Even if it's painted to be education, it quite often isn't. And if you don't know any better, how would you know? So I continue this channel because I feel like it's more need for this information now than ever before. It's everybody and their uncle is becoming content creators with no barrier to entry. Nobody approves you. You just turn on your camera and go. You can say whatever you want. Freedom of speech is freedom to lie, whether knowingly or unknowingly, intentionally or unintentionally. That is your freedom to lie. Now, you as a viewer have a choice if somebody's worth believing. And you'll know that based on a history of that person. Has that person been wrong before? Have they admitted and corrected themselves when they were wrong? Or do they just continue to spout nonsense? And does this person have a boss that has given them a title? Do they say they're a tech? Who gave them that title? In many cases, for enthusiasts, they gave it to themselves. I don't call myself a tech. I am a tech. It was a title instilled upon me by my employers. I didn't get to decide one day I'm a tech. I decided one day to become one, and an employer hired me and paid me for the role of tech. From that day forward, while I'm employed, I'm a tech. If I stop being employed, then I used to be a tech. If you're not working as a tech, you're either a former tech or never were a tech. That's all there is. And there's plenty of content from real techs if you look for it, but none of them have the number of views or followers that the entertainers have. The entertainment is what gets the bills paid on YouTube. So it's up to you to filter this content. And if you won't, you're going to be walking away with a lot of misinformation. And I'll do what I can to help you. If you have questions and you want to verify if something's true or not, I'm more than happy to tell you what I know from real experience. And I just took a customer call yesterday. When customers are paying you for answers, they're holding you accountable for everything you say and do. So if you're wrong, you'll be fixing it, making it right, and you will do it at your own time and expense. And if all you're doing is fixing your errors at your own time and expense, you ain't making any money. If you ain't making any money, you're not going to pay the bills, and then you're not going to be in business anymore. But an enthusiast can do whatever the hell they want to. There's no consequences, and there's no one to answer to, which is fine if you want entertainment. And I'm vastly outnumbered. There's way more entertainers in this space calling themselves techs than there are techs. And it's making my job frustrating because I've had to repeat myself over and over and over. And no matter how many times I say it, when I'm helping one person at a time, it's up against 100,000 people that are watching this content creator that just poison their minds. And a certain percentage of them believe it. And of that, some will come here and I'll correct them, but I'm not making a damn difference. It's insignificant. But I'll still try, damn it. I'm still going to try. I'm sure Mark Leibowitz is probably nodding his head. Like anybody in this industry, seeing the nonsense on YouTube is just, it's sad. But, you know, some people just want to be entertained and they don't really care about the education. And some people can't tell the difference. we have, just to put my, what I do on my channel differently by filming live and unrehearsed is I can just grab something off a shelf just to prove to you what I'm saying is true. So you don't have to choose to believe me or not. I have evidence. So for example, over here, these are some of the first solid state drives I ever bought back around 2013, 2014. Now they're way too slow and the capacity is way too small, but they weren't when we bought them. Do you know what's wrong with these drives? Did we ever hit the write cycle limit on them? These drives are just like brand new. They operate exactly the same today as they did 14 years ago when we bought them. I don't have many hard drives that are 14 years old that still work. But even when they work at their best, they're nowhere close to as fast as this. This is easily 2 to 3 times faster than any modern day hard drive. But it's only 128 gigs, I think, on these, which is pretty small, but we didn't think that 14 years ago. And these being SATA drives, these may be SATA 2. They're pretty slow by SSD standards, but they work exactly the same today. And do you know why I have 3 of them? Because that's how many I installed. And we upgraded these to newer, faster drives with larger capacities, and then we upgraded those to newer and faster, and then we upgraded those. I think they're on Samsung 970 EVOs now, M.2 NVMe drives. So the lifespan of these is irrelevant. They will outlive you, generally, on average. There's always exceptions and for various reasons, but if you treat it well and you don't abuse it, and you use it the way you're supposed to, you will replace it because it's too slow and too small. I probably have some 8-track tapes laying around from the 1970s. I'm sure they'll play just fine. I don't have anything to play them in. I have a friend of mine who has the big 12-inch laser discs from the 1980s. They still work. Why you'd want to watch them, I don't know, but they still work. He will die before those ever stop working. Statistically. Welcome to modern electronics. Mark says, so he's another tech, right? He has his own shop, very similar to me, but in another part of the country. He goes, watching tent content on YouTube is a lot like watching cop shows on TV. Yeah, because everything is CSI Miami, right? This guy's sitting in his cop car eating a donut, and somebody's calling because there's a guy filming me on the street. So you're calling me because there's a guy with a camera filming you on a public sidewalk. Yeah, I want him arrested. He doesn't have my permission. Yeah, we'll send somebody out. You're not going to see that on CSI. The cop goes out and says, you're in the public, lady. Guy's got a camera. That's what people do. They go outside, they use their cameras. But he's pointing it at me. And walk away. Go inside and close your curtains. Have a nice day. I don't think the job of being a cop is as great as it's made be on television. So it's a great point, Mark. Probably the same with lawyers, too. Ben Laird said, I still have a 30-year-old parallel ATA drive, and it still works. And do you use it? So when I talk about drive reliability, I'm talking averages. There's always going to be a drive that'll be, you could have a drive that has an average lifespan of 3 years, and someone will say, mine's 50 years old, it still works. Yeah, there are few survivors, for sure. But statistics, the average lifespan of a mechanical drive, in my experience, up until lately, it's been about 5 years. Now it seems like they're building them better, but they're still temporary storage devices, and they do fail because they have spinning motors, and they're just more likely to fail when you have moving parts. It's just part of the design. And you get better value on a mechanical drive because they're not as fast. So they still have a place in the world, don't get me wrong. But most end users don't use them anymore. And unless maybe you're a gamer and you need somewhere to store your games that are big, but most offices won't use them. We use a NAS or a server for data storage, and that will usually have hard drives in it for the capacity. But the individual machines will be all SSDs, and they're quick. And then when we have a repair, it's more than likely going to be on the server before it would be on the workstations. There's only one server, and there could be 30 workstations. So, you know, those calls for bad hard drives that used to come in constantly, it just doesn't happen anymore. Not in my world. You know, I can only tell you from my own experience. That all stopped. It's pretty rare these days. And if there is a hard drive error, it'll be on the NAS, because otherwise they don't have hard drives. So you have fewer to go break that can go wrong and break. Rip City Raider just became a supporter. Right on. Thank you for that, Rip City Raider. All right, well, that'll wrap it up. We're just crossed over the 3-hour mark here, which is a little bit long. But hey, it's a fun Sunday. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope I answered all your questions about the Kamrui, the latest version of the E3B. Do know they have 4 different versions with the same model number. So be aware of what you're purchasing if you decide to purchase one, so you don't get a surprise. And now that we know what to expect with regards to upgradability, how to open it, what performance, the prices are obviously subject to change. So depending on if you're watching this video in March of 2026 versus March of 2027, bear in mind when you're watching videos when those videos were made, especially if you're worried about pricing, because it's, again, when I tell you a gallon of gas is $3.49 in Phoenix today, and you watch this video a year from now, and you don't realize we're talking a year, then it could be very different, right? So, well, the information is fresh and new. The closer you are to March of 2026, the more accurate everything I've told you will be. Things are subject to change beyond my control. If the manufacturer changes anything, how are we going to know? Unless you guys let us know. We invite you to reach out to us. Our email address we'll put right up here on the screen. And we love hearing from you guys. So if you have questions, please reach out. And Sable the cat will get right back to you. If you want to share an experience that you have, or if you believe that something I've said is inaccurate and you want to provide me the source, please do correct me with a source. Not taking anybody's word for anything, and I don't expect you to take my word for anything. If anything I say you think doesn't sound right, do your research. And if you want to then send me the results of that research and educate me, I invite you to send those links to this email address so we can verify and help each other out. That is going to wrap it up for me for today. Thanks to Mara, of course, for all of her help during today's stream. Thank you once again to William Denton and Frankie B. I also want to thank Luke Greenia, Mark Gaines, and Peter Laycock for their contributions above and beyond their memberships, which, you know, make these videos. It really helps give us more variety of our content when we have a bigger budget that we can spend on content, and we work within our budget. So thank you to every member who makes these videos possible, and thank you to the folks for whatever reason are not members, are here, part of the community. We love having you here. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Every Monday we do members only videos, speaking of the paid members, and those are videos that are never ever made public. So for our friends in green, I hope you'll join me tomorrow at the usual time, and until then, bye for now.